Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Garrett Smith here with another episode of the Love Your Liver live stream. And for those of you who have been following the channel, I've had a thing for copper toxicity lately, and we are going to hammer this home until people, at least the people who are capable of it, understand how bad this toxic metal is for them. Do we need maybe a tiny bit of it? Probably. Is that going to be hard for anybody to get in any diet they eat? No. So what I'm saying is, again, like vitamin A, copper deficiency is not an issue if you're eating food, and copper toxicity is everywhere, as we're going to go over. So for those of you who are new to this episode, and this is part 2 of the copper sources, and today we're going over symptoms, the typical symptoms. And for you lady, I just did copper toxicity in men last week. And for you ladies, I know a lot of ladies, you guys have the copper toxicity worse. You're going to see some of the symptoms that you have today. And then I'm going to go over the reproductive, the hormonal symptoms that you ladies suffer from, and all the connections to all the problems that you guys are suffering with these days, because no one warned you about copper, or your health gurus told you should eat more of it, or they just never warned you about all the ways that it gets into you. So actually, I did want to hit on one thing that Christopher Oliver, LYL, I like your YouTube name, Christopher. He pointed out, Joe, you may want to go find the artists and nicotine YouTube link. I did not know this, so thank you for bringing this up, Christopher. He said, anyone see artists warning us all about the new COOFs being activated by zinc and magnesium? Okay. So what does artists push? He pushes nicotine, a pesticide made by plants. Yeah, Joe put up the part 1 of the copper toxicity episodes. But what is artists? Artists is a huge part of the infertility psyop, a chiropractor who came out of nowhere to stardom, pushing his COOF theories. And is there snake venom in the water? And is there, nicotine saves everybody from everything? And he looks like the picture of health. And no, that's sarcasm. There's quite a bit of sarcasm there. And he pushes all the things that slow your detox. He pushes bioavailable copper, which, if you didn't know, the so-called bioavailable copper supplement, this is very important for you to know, is copper bound to nicotinic acid. It's copper bound to flush niacin. Copper bound to flush niacin. Gosh, do you think that some people may be getting a lot of benefits from the copper nicotinate that he's pushing? Because it's not nicotine, it's copper nicotinate. They're actually getting benefits from the flush niacin, because huge benefits have been shown in the research from milligrams, literal like 15, 20, 25 milligrams of flush niacin a day. Seriously. So he's giving people flush niacin, but he's trying to associate it with nicotine, because people don't understand that nicotine is simply a pesticide that plants make by turning nicotinic acid into a pesticide. They take something that is useful. Nicotinic acid, you want to think of it more like an amino acid than a vitamin. It's so different from all the other B vitamins. It's embarrassing for people to call it a vitamin. It's dosed in milligram doses. The other vitamins are like below milligrams typically, unless people are mega dosing. It is found in so many foods, but it's destroyed very easily. And it's just basically, if you think of nicotinic acid, flush niacin, as an amino acid, you will be way better off. And then when you think, why are they binding it to copper and people feel better? It's not the copper, it's the nicotinic acid. And it's been shown that in your stomach, that bioavailable copper separates into copper and nicotinic acid in your stomach. So you're not absorbing it as copper nicotinate. It's breaking down in your stomach. I have the patent, the guy who wrote the patent application, showing that he had to prove that before he could get approved by the FDA. So, yeah, they're just taking flush niacin and then they're trying to call it bioavailable copper. And anyway, If it was bioavailable copper and you needed flush niacin to make it bioavailable, and everybody's getting plenty of copper in their diets, then what would the answer then be? To take flush niacin so that your body could do that. What do we use here? Flush niacin. So, yeah, so he's going anti. First of all, Artis is a virulent believer in germ theory and virus theory. So if you're here and you still believe in virus theory, these spooky bugaboos that no one can seem to really show, and that people like Jamie Andrews are show up in tissues and tissue samples where there should be no viruses, but viruses are showing up everywhere. So Artis pushes this. So Artis is part of the mainstream virus narrative. He's also pushing copper. And now he's anti-zinc and anti-magnesium. You should go back and watch my male copper toxicity episode to see just how important fixing a zinc deficiency is to male issues, and see how just important magnesium is to fixing male issues, and then see how copper toxicity is connected to all of them. So what is Artis pushing? Nicotine, copper, and now he's anti-zinc and anti-magnesium. And he got everyone big is compromised. Everyone big is compromised. So if you want to keep vaping, as the joke goes, sucking the robot D, if you want to keep vaping, that's what that is, basically. They're priming you for all sorts of stuff, filling you full of heavy metals. They want to turn you into an antenna by putting a bunch of aluminum and copper in you. I went over that last episode, okay? So we're going to review a little bit from part 1 now. So I have the link to the Google Doc reference. It's in the show notes below. It's also in the live chat. Joe put it there. Thanks, Joe. And let me close this one. So here, I'm just going to review real quick. First, look, I show you all the research of copper accumulating in the tissues and with aging. Okay, I'm not going to review all this in a whole bunch, but copper accumulates in you as you get older. It has been shown as people get older and mice get older and rats get older that their blood copper goes up and their tissue copper goes up and their brain copper goes up and their liver copper goes up. And are people healthier as they get older? Generally, or do they feel better? No. So again, we talked about the copper copers who will say that copper's there to help. And it's accumulating because the body needs it. And it's like if you were to say that for mercury or lead or cadmium or arsenic, and you found a bunch of it in places and you had problems in those places, you would say, wow, this is probably connected. But the copper copers are like, no, copper's there to help. Your body's putting it there. What a joke. Okay. It's kind of like the bioavailable copper joke, which is flush niacin. Okay. Next. So I'm just going to review some of these sources that copper is found in. Drinking water, your copper pipes. I don't care what your water guy says. If you have copper water pipes, you're getting copper in your water. I don't care what the copper pipe guy says or your water filter guy says. We have plenty of people who have switched from doing their showers in a shower to basically taking clean water and doing a sponge bath in their bathtub maybe instead, so they don't spill water everywhere. They do a sponge bath in their bath, and all of a sudden, all the symptoms that they used to get after showering are gone. Okay? If you have copper water pipes, you're getting copper in your water. I would highly suggest you start filtering your water to work on getting that out. The Aqua Youth 2 shower filter takes out, they say, 30% of the copper in the water. So, and yes, copper in water has caused many problems. We'll go over some more of that today. So then foods. We have the food list here. The key thing is to get the biggest sources out. Chocolate is the biggest source. Liver is the next. Well, between chocolate and liver, that's where a lot of people cause their problems. Okay. Don't take copper in supplements, please. Don't take copper on your skin, like as cosmetics. You don't need it. IV nutrition, they are basically ruining people in hospitals, and they know it, as I went over in that episode. Okay. Now we're getting close into where I stopped. Copper cookware. Have you guys seen these copper nonstick pans? Copper pots, copper cups for, beverages, which, as we'll see, copper cups for alcoholic beverages have literally, there's a case study of them literally poisoning somebody. Copper water bottles. It's all over the place. So, and people say, but it kills the bacteria. Okay. Copper is used as an algaecide in swimming pools. Copper is antibacterial. Supposedly, copper is antiviral. Copper seems to kill things. Why would you not think it would kill you eventually? It's moving up in size. It's moving up in the size of these things. Viruses, if they exist, bacteria, and then algae. Okay. It kills big things too. And the more heat you have in them and the more acidity you have in these copper vessels, the more copper goes into it. If you, seriously, folks, if you can taste copper in the water, especially the worst time for copper in your pipes in the house is in the morning after it's been sitting all night, or if the water's been sitting for a long time in the pipes in the same spot. You want to run the water first so you can get all that coppery water that's been sitting there out, okay? Copper IUDs and birth control. We're going to go over copper IUD reviews at the start here, just so we can see. So for all the people out there who are going to claim that Wilson's disease, which is an inborn, like a genetic, slow detox of copper, these people have slow copper detox. People will say, oh, the only people who get issues from copper toxicity are Wilson's disease. That is about the most wrong thing I've ever heard, because we can show it over and over again in the research that people get copper toxicity who don't have Wilson's disease. And I'll hit on that again today. So copper IUDs, they're literally putting a copper wire in you. So you're absorbing it, ladies, through your cervix and all of your uterine tissue. And then you wonder why you get reproductive issues down there. And it is literally deactivating the sperm. And as we'll go over, it's also ruining your fertility, ladies. So birth control of any type and hormonal therapy of any type raises your estrogen, ladies, which raises your copper retention, makes you keep more copper. Okay. So you can go over these papers. Now we're down to, we went over this with Dr. Julian Camastra in the dental toxicity episode and how he helps with that stuff. Nowadays, so they decided that mercury fillings, they were getting a bad rap, right? So if you have mercury fillings in your mouth, you need to get them out. They are putting mercury in your system every day. However, as the years have gone on, they've tried to improve amalgam fillings. And now they're making high copper amalgam fillings up to 30% copper. 30% copper in your mouth. Now, if we were to believe that, let's say, the conventional medical industry and the conventional dental industry is not terribly interested in our health, and some aspects of it may be actively working against our health, and people who are saying, oh, drink out of copper cups, and oh, do a copper water bottle, and use copper to cook with, and eat high copper foods, and eat liver, and eat chocolate, and get all the copper you can. But then they'd go, well, wait, the bad guys want to get us. So they would never use copper in us, would they? Well, they're putting IUDs in people, and they're putting 30% copper fillings in people that people are absorbing. Okay? Let me head into this, just so, actually, I forgot to go over these links. I forgot to open up these links. Let me open the other one. And let's go over all the ways that people can be exposed to copper in their mouth. Let me see. Let me check and see if I highlighted this one. I guess I didn't. Where was it? Let's go 30. Okay, here we go. Here we are. Let me make this a little bigger. I'm sure Joe is yelling at me on Telegram. The history of dental amalgam. We don't need to go too much into the history because they're not doing that anymore. Here we are. Introduction of high copper amalgams. Around 1960, an amalgam alloy with a higher copper content was developed. Increasing the copper content reduced the percentage of the weakest phase of the resulting dental amalgam. So supposedly it's making it stronger. Clinical performance improved markedly. Today, numerous high copper dental amalgams are on the market, and a variety of particle shapes and compositions are available. The copper content ranges from 10% to 30%. Okay. So let me just see what else there was. Sorry, I thought and what Dr. Kamaster was talking about in the episode we had him on was he was talking about the galvanic current that can be created in your mouth between these multiple types of metals and how that increases the corrosion of them. And this is obvious stuff to chemists and physicists, but apparently dentistry just ignores that and they don't really care. So let's see. Yeah, we don't, that's, oh wait, there we go. Yeah, that's all we got on that one. So, but yes, so know that not only do you want to get the copper out, the mercury out of your mouth, but you want to get the copper out of your mouth. You definitely want to do that. So let's see. Let's see if I remembered to mark this one. Why is it refreshing? Oh, it's not. Oh, I thought I marked this. Anyway, there was, let me see. What part was I looking at? I was looking at the occupational and environmental. Okay. So there we go. Let's zoom in a bit. So let's talk about some of the other places people might be exposed. You may be exposed to copper in the workplace. If you work in the industry of mining copper, we went over miners, how they had bad erectile function and less happy marriages for copper miners in the last episode, or in the 230, in the min episode. If you work in the industry of mining copper or processing the ore, you are exposed to copper by breathing copper-containing dust or skin contact. Occupational exposure to forms of copper that are soluble or not strongly attached to dust or dirt would most commonly occur in agriculture. The organic pesticide copper sulfate that they actually have had to limit the industry on because they were poisoning people with too much copper sulfate because they just thought they could spray as much of it as they wanted everywhere. Water treatment, in industries such as electroplating where soluble copper compounds are used. Exposure to copper in air in the workplace is regulated and is set to be below concentrations that can be harmful for you. Here, I want to go over something. I didn't pull up these papers, but there are multiple papers of where people got copper toxicity acutely. One little girl breathed in copper, and then multiple other people got exposed to copper other ways, and they developed so these other people weren't breathing it in. They got acute respiratory distress syndrome, ARDS. Do you know what the thing is that gets people from the coof? What they call it? Acute respiratory distress syndrome, ARDS. That's what they called the coof at the start. And that's what they say the coof causes. And that's what supposedly gets you if it's not the hospital people doing it. So, yeah, we got that. So let's keep going. Sorry, I didn't put my markings on those. Now let's just get into, so again, this is for the Wilson's disease copper copers who think that you have to have Wilson's disease to get copper toxicity. ParaGard, folks, is the copper IUD. Okay, the natural IUD that is just copper metal. Okay, now I went over, I think in the first episode about copper toxicity 237, I believe I went over how the copper IUD, the biggest place in the world where they use it is China, and nearly all the women who get on it quit it within 5 years. Gosh, what do you think's driving that? Let me go over some testimonials and some anecdotes here. So this is copper toxicity in a nutshell. My 19-year-old daughter with no history of self-harming or suicidal behavior. Okay, let me stop here. Suicidal behavior and schizophrenia are known to be connected to copper toxicity, okay? So she made sure to say this at the start. With no history of self-harming or suicidal behavior, began experiencing progressively worse neuropsychiatric symptoms after her ParaGard insertion due to copper accumulating in her neural tissue and her body's inability to eliminate the excess. We never thought the natural copper ParaGard could be the catalyst for the onset of her debilitating anxiety and despair. But 6 months post-insertion, she took her own life. We ordered hair and tissue analysis tests after her death. Hair analysis? Who does that for copper toxicity? Oh, we do. After her death, and received results showing toxic levels of copper. ParaGard does not warn patients of this possible adverse event. Why would they? You need copper. Copper is essential. So, hold on. Joe sent me something. Yeah, Joe, I got that. Let's keep going. I've been on ParaGard for 10 months now. Where do I even begin? I've always had horrible cramping on my periods, but this is different cramping. I read a lot about this and have yet to hear anything about the cramping that I have. It's not this severe all the time, but it literally takes my breath away. It's normally just the first 2 to 3 days, but it's like a stabbing pain in my uterus. And here's the real weird part. It's not just my uterus. The stabbing, breathtaking pain shoots up my butthole. Yes, you heard me. It makes me feel like I'm constipated with severe shooting gas pains that might explode. So I had an ultrasound/internal exam, and they said everything was fine. Isn't that what they always say, right? I'm still on this because there aren't really many birth controls left that I haven't already heard horror stories, even though this is one or have tried. But hey, I'm not pregnant, so I guess it's effective. Let me know if you get these pains, okay? Ladies and the moms who are concerned about your daughter's futures, okay. You can think about it this way. Okay. You may want your daughter to get on birth control because you don't trust your daughter to not have premarital sex. Okay. Let me tell you, the biggest thing that drives women to me in terms of the most common thing that drives women to us for help is a history of birth control. A history of birth control is the biggest thing that sends women to us. And we're talking about ruining the rest of their lives. So you could look at it as, okay. They get pregnant. There's a baby. Does that affect the rest of their life? Yes. Has their health been ruined? No. Okay. Baby, healthier. Okay. Or they could take birth control, most likely not have a baby, and ruin their health potentially for the rest of their life. Okay. So you can think about this. You know, it's like Accutane. Parents are seeing their children suffering because they've got acne and they're worried about them, and the kids don't want to fix their diet, and the parents don't know what to do, and so they give the kid Accutane and they ruin the kid's health for the rest of their life. We have lots of these too. Parents, pharma is not going to save your kids. It's going to ruin them. Let's keep going. I got my ParaGard out after 9 years of having it in. I was experiencing copper toxicity and wonky hormonal shifts, symptoms, ovarian cysts. Cysts and tumors and cancers, as we went over in the last 2 copper episodes, are particularly storage areas for excess copper. Gosh, why would ovarian cysts develop so close to a copper IUD? What might they be storing? Oh, very expensive appointment to confirm through sonogram. Cystic acne, storage sites. Liver started to struggle. Vitamin blood test proof. I don't know what that means. Easily got sick. Body pains, dizziness, panic attack, trouble sleeping, daily diarrhea. Not even docs or my mom could figure this out. After dramatically changing my diet to cater to reducing cysts and cystic acne, no dice. You must stop intoxing before you start detoxing. I was still in incurable pain at random. Ibuprofen, magnesium, CBD, hot pad all did not work. It wasn't until I shared my story online that I found my cause was my IUD. Total spent over this issue is likely anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000. Total, I just want awareness spread more than anything. I got the IUD after having bad reactions to hormonal birth control. On paper, ParaGard sounded great. No hormones, no long-term side effects, no problems. Immediately after insertion, I began having horrible lower back pain accompanied by excruciating menstrual cramps that left me curled up in a ball on the floor. My periods lasted for 2 weeks with spotting for a week after. Then came the insomnia, anxiety, and crippling depression. I totally lost interest in everything I used to like and found myself having suicidal thoughts, which was an absolute first for me. My doctor said there was no connection between the IUD and my symptoms, so I kept with it long enough to experience daily migraines, extreme joint pain, painful bloating, hair loss, constant exhaustion, and insane brain fog. After an entire year of misery, I finally got it removed. I am pretty upset with the lack of information available about this product. I would never recommend this device to anyone. It's a toxicity device. That's how they make you infertile. That's copper toxicity makes you infertile, as I showed in the men's episode, and we're going to show on the women's episode. Okay. So again, are the copper copers out there going to say every one of these women has Wilson's disease? That's how they got copper toxicity. Or are they going to say it's not copper toxicity? It's definitely not from the copper metal wire that was inserted into them that we know they're absorbing copper from. Definitely not from that. They should be experiencing improved health from all the copper now floating around their system that they've been accumulating as they've been getting older already. So we just added more to it. They should be doing better, right? Never believe the copper copers. I got a ParaGard IUD 8 weeks after giving birth to my third child. 2 weeks after insertion, I started having really bad pain in my lower left abdomen. My OB checked and couldn't find the strings. A sonogram was ordered and showed the IUD had moved and was stuck in the uterine muscle. This happens more than you think. I was referred to a surgeon to have the IUD removed, but by then my pain had gone away. The body can do amazing things, right? This IUD is literally stuck in her uterine wall. But by the time she had a surgery scheduled, or even by the time she talked to the surgeon, the pain had gone away. So this is like when people say, oh, but their blood copper hasn't risen from wearing an IUD. Well, this is literally a copper IUD stuck in the uterine wall, and she doesn't feel it anymore. I had another sonogram, and this time only a few weeks later, the IUD had fully perforated the uterus and was now near my ovaries. I had to have laparoscopic surgery to have it removed. I did my research, and I know for a fact the manufacturer isn't being upfront about warnings on the label. 3/4 of women who have the IUD perforate the uterus are women who have had a baby in the past 36 weeks and or are nursing. The reasons being simple. Number one, your muscles are soft from just carrying a baby. Number two, your uterus is still contracting and moving when you nurse. Please be aware of this information. It can save you a lot of pain. So ladies, should you choose to use an IUD of any type after you deliver a baby, first of all, the IUD will be poisoning the baby through your breast milk. Yes. Second, if you're having uterine contractions from nursing and you have an extra kind of softer and weaker uterus from pregnancy, yeah, it's probably going to perforate your uterus. So don't. Next one. I expected to get worse cramping and periods the first 6 months or so after insertion of ParaGard, which is fine. After about 2 years of having it in, because toxicity takes a while for some people to accumulate. Some people it shows up right away. Some people it takes a year. Some people it takes 2 years. Gosh, those Chinese women, nearly all of them were off of it by 5 years. So I guess that kind of covers the length of time that different people might take. I started getting hormonal issues, low thyroid, loss of period for up to 6 months at a time. Talk about infertility. Recurring bacterial vaginosis, horrible bloating, water retention, and fatigue either the week before or during my period. Sometimes this lasted 2.5 weeks. I do think the bacterial vaginosis is related to the IUD, but I'm not sure about the other symptoms. Can anyone else relate? I think we know. Here we go. The infertility psyop. Prior to using ParaGard, my sex drive was high and my husband and I had a very active and fun sex life. Remember, okay, folks, birth control for women kills their libido as a general rule. So if you were out there as a guy, if you know the toxicity of copper now and the toxicity of birth control, hormonal birth control, IUD that's hormonal, and you have your lady get on it just so you can have more happy fun time, she's going to lose her drive. So I'm going to suggest that you don't poison your partner and that you figure out, maybe you take some education, some classes to learn how to relate to your partner better, and so that she wants you more, instead of just assuming that you're good at relationships. Because most guys have put tons of effort into their work and tons of effort into their hobbies, but they have put no effort at all into their relationship skills. And then they wonder why over time it all doesn't go well. Guys, we have to put effort into our relationship skills too. But think about that. This is one thing that hit me really hard. I thought, as I was going through this, I was reading through this book, and they said, think of these high performing men in general. They've put hours and hours and years into their work skills. They've put the same, similar amounts of time, maybe more, into their hobbies. And how much time or energy or effort have they put into learning how to be in a relationship or maintain it or improve it? And the answer from the guys that in this book I was reading, they were all silent, because they had put absolutely zero effort into it. So you get out what you put in, right? So if you put in no effort into your relationships, guys, you're not going to get anything out of it. So instead of poisoning your wife, what I'm saying is, guys, you might want to put in a little effort on learning how to have better relationships, and then you don't have a poisoned wife and you have a better relationship, and she will be less moody and depressed and anxious because she's not poisoned, and she'll have a better libido. Okay, so it's a win-win. Okay, I got mine put in about 2 months after my first baby was born, and everything went downhill fast after that. Again, some people have it faster, some people have it slower. I experienced depression, anxiety, hopelessness, cystic acne, severe PMS. I'd barely had any PMS prior, crazy mood swings, forgetfulness and brain fog, no sex drive whatsoever, and just a complete lack of interest in my spouse. Pain during sex, not severe, but uncomfortable and lingering, and overall, I just felt like a wreck and not myself at all. It took a long time to figure out that my issues were coming from the IUD and copper toxicity. After 4.5 years of suffering, I finally had it removed 4 days ago. 4 days ago. Tonight, for the first time in years, I actually enjoyed sex and desired my husband. The sex was free from pain and discomfort too. While this IUD is great at preventing pregnancy, it's not worth losing yourself over. I'm so glad to be free. It's an infertility tool, folks. That's look at all those symptoms. How would you create infertility? Just poison a woman so that she has all of this stuff happen to her. And then she's not going to get pregnant. She's not going to want to get pregnant. Things don't work. Okay. So again, notice the patterns: depression, anxiety, cystic acne. Don't forget the weight gain. Let's keep going. When I first heard about the copper, again, remember, why are we doing this? We're going to have the women's episode. We've already have, if you guys haven't seen it, Joe, if you want to find it, the endometriosis and PCOS episode. So ladies, if you want to see the toxicities and deficiencies, where we go over all of them together for endometriosis and PCOS, there's that episode, Joe. I think you can find it if you search for those. I think I did so if you guys are searching for my videos on YouTube, on the YouTube search engine, I would type in nutrition detective and then the keywords that you know about. So like endometriosis or PCOS, and then you'll most likely find it. Okay. When I first heard about the copper IUD, I was really excited because it's non-hormonal, and that's the reason why I chose this option. I'm going to be honest here. When I was in naturopathic school, I assumed, right? You know what happens when we assume? I assumed the same thing as these women did. It's non-hormonal. It's a natural mineral. It's got to be not a problem and maybe even good for you. This is what I used to think. So I had to fix my perceptions over time to realize, well, first I had to realize that they are literally trying to poison us, make us infertile, and turn us into antennas and batteries. And then when you understand that, like, what do they call Duracell? The copper top? They're turning you into a battery. My IUD insertion was about 10 minutes. The process of getting inserted was uncomfortable but still manageable. The first 3 months were awful because my period would be 2 weeks long and spot on and off for the rest of the month. So her period never really stopped. On top of that, I was constantly getting cramps and lower back aches. After 6 months, my cramping did get better and the period shortened up, but it was still as heavy as anything. I'm about 11 months in with this IUD and I'm considering getting it removed. Even though it claims to be non-hormonal, it definitely messed up my hormones a lot. I'm constantly getting acne when my skin has been clear most of my life and I feel bloated all of the time. My PMS symptoms are way worse than before. Bottom line is I've had it with this IUD. Next, please do your research on copper toxicity before getting this inserted. It sounds promising with a quick insertion and 10 years of protection, but the side effects can be debilitating. I was only on it for 4 months and it was miserable. Some of my side effects included no sex drive, spotting, crippling anxiety and depression, brain fog, cystic acne. I've never struggled with it before. We keep seeing cystic acne. Gosh, cystic acne must be related to copper deposits in your skin. Aching and sore joints all over my body, twitches, and complete personality change. It made me into an irritable, angry monster. I didn't even recognize myself. When I finally realized what was happening, I got it out. I felt instant relief. I wish I had done more research before I risked my close relationships, health, and well-being for this. There needs to be more research done on the safety of this product. There's tons of research on copper toxicity, folks. Why aren't doctors telling women about this? Because it's only Wilson's disease. You keep seeing the same patterns here. Twitches. Tremors are very much connected to copper toxicity, and so is Parkinson's disease with the use of pesticides. I'll hit on that when we go back to the research document. Okay, so again, this was within 4 months. She was only on it for 4 months, so that means that all these problems came on within 4 months. I had the ParaGard inserted 3 years ago. Pain was minimal. I experienced minor cramping. My periods became much heavier between 7 to 12 days. Early this year, I began experiencing my first signs of copper toxicity. Watch the pattern. Severe panic attacks, painful muscles and joints, and fatigue. Then the second copper dump came about 2 weeks ago. My chest and back are inflamed and painful. My joints pop everywhere. Limbs tingle with pins and needles. Neuropathy. Extreme fatigue and anxiety. I had enough yesterday morning and removed it myself. Boy, she got mad, huh? Don't listen to the studies that tell you it doesn't cause copper toxicity. Copper is stored in the tissues, not in the blood or urine. She's got it. And those trials do not test for it correctly. Proceed with caution. The only positive side of this is that I never fell pregnant, so in that regard, it worked. But the side effects were too horrible to keep it. Folks, if you see that, okay, so what is likely going to happen with these women who took it out and then immediately felt better? I've talked about this. I don't remember if I talked about this on the Dr. Kamastra episode. I think I did, but what we see with people who get their mercury amalgams out and possibly copper amalgams out is that they feel better for days to a week before the body really starts dumping it. As this woman just said, she started dumping. Okay, before the dumping starts, you stop the intoxing, you feel better because you're not putting it in, and then your body finally realizes, oh, it's not coming in anymore. We can start getting rid of it. And then you start getting rid of it, and then you feel bad again. Now, I'm going to go over in the research how they talk about when people take copper antagonists, like let's say zinc. It's literally in the research that they talk about copper dumping, getting copper toxicity symptoms from taking something that helps get rid of copper while people's symptoms are also improving. Gosh, does that sound anything like what we do? I thought it was really cool to see it. I kept having extreme pelvic pain and I could not for the life of me figure out what was going on. I've been going to the doctors now for 2.5 years trying to figure out the source of pain. Gynecologist, urologist, urogynecologist, you name it, nightmare. So this woman had an IUD in and she was having all this pelvic pain. And she goes to all these female-centered physicians who are experienced in the urinary tract and the female reproductive system, and not one of them brought up the IUD. Are they on your side? Or are they trying to cover their butts? Well, we would never want to tell her it's the copper IUD because then, see, so here's why doctors don't always want to talk about side effects of medications, because doctors are humans, which means they feel guilt. So if they admit to themselves, if one of them says to this woman, they're probably seeing a lot of women with IUDs, right? These kinds of doctors, gynecologists, urologists, urogynecologists. If they see a woman and they say, well, maybe the IUD is the cause of your pelvic pain. Why don't you try getting it out? And they take it out, The woman's pelvic pain disappears, like within days. And then that same doctor has to then think back and think forward and go, wait, how many cases of pelvic pain have I dealt with here with women with IUDs? And oh my gosh, I didn't tell them that this was the problem. I feel bad now. Now I have guilt that I can't do anything about. Well, they could contact those patients. They could find them and contact them. Are they going to? No, they just say, they know from the start, it's not the IUD. Couldn't be the IUD. So then they don't have to get into the guilt. See, it's all just basic psychology. And then they also get into like lawsuits, as I think they're starting to get into lawsuits about vitamin D supplements being literal rat poison. I finally had ParaGard removed 3 days ago, and I already feel better. I could tell my body was not happy with the thing and kept trying to have it removed. So she was telling the doctors to try to have it removed, and they kept talking her back into it, is what it sounds like. You know what happens when your body's not happy and wants something removed? Your body turns against itself when it's trying to remove a foreign object like cancer. When your body starts rejecting what's in it, you start to feel so much pain physically, mentally, and you don't know where it's coming from. I wasted the last 3 years not understanding what was happening to my body, but now I do. How much? I think we only have a couple more. Pain and bleeding, black bleeding, every time something touches my cervix. Can't wait to get it removed. Doctors and nurses do not warn you about the likelihood of copper toxicity. Well, it's not likelihood, it's guaranteed. You're just slowly becoming more toxic the longer you have it. It's just whether or not it's causing you problems yet. 2 weeks in, 2 weeks, I'm already experiencing insomnia, racing thoughts, irritability, and out of control emotions. I am unable to join usual social activities or connect with my family due to the pain and bleeding. The insertion process was not a pinch. It is traumatic and very painful. I'm anxious about the removal process. 2 weeks. I had ParaGard for 3 years. If you have the copper IUD and you're experiencing water retention, weight gain that seems impossible to reduce. Ladies, the weight gain that you got from birth control and from antidepressants, things of that nature, it is toxicity stored in your tissues. It is vitamin A toxicity stored. It is copper toxicity stored. If you don't remember, I went over a study about obesity and how obese people have higher levels of copper pretty much in their fat tissue and in their liver and basically everywhere. So what would a copper IUD do to your tissue copper? It would increase it. What would hormonal birth control do to your tissue copper? It would increase it. So what do those things tend to do to weight gain? They increase it. So even if it was just vanity, ladies, and you're like, well, I don't want to gain a bunch of excess weight, then the birth control has to go. Okay, so remember, weight gain would be making tissue storage, extra tissue storage. You're making more weight, more body fat to hold on to more, let's say, copper and other fat-soluble toxins that you can't get rid of anymore because your liver is suffering. Okay, so let's go over these symptoms. Water retention, weight gain that seems impossible to reduce, cystic acne, toxin storage, mood swings, decreased sex drive, gut issues, bowel movement issues, joint pain, and overall less quality of life. You're not crazy. You're not imagining it. I was never once told that perhaps my copper IUD could be the root cause of symptoms, and I could probably go to college again with all the money I've spent on medical and dermatological bills. Yes, the IUD prevented pregnancy for me, but at what cost? Parents, pay attention to that. Trust yourself and what your body is telling you. So far, it's been 10 days since the removal. The dull ache in my abdomen is subsiding. My brain feels like an anvil. My mood is lifting, and my midsection is noticeably less swollen. Also, my bowel movements aren't a liquid nightmare. I hope things continue to improve. Here's something about the weight gain. I'm back, and I took this IUD out. I lost 20 pounds. I wish I could show you all before and after pictures. I feel so much better. Brain fog is gone. Weird rashes and dizzy feelings are gone. My body doesn't ache anymore. The ParaGard works differently for everyone. No, this is not a repeat, Joe. Oh, sorry. Which one do I repeat? The start of this one? Okay. So Joe says I should repeat this one. So here we go. Thanks, Joe. I'm back, and I took out this IUD 20 days ago, and let me tell you, I've lost 20 pounds. 20 pounds in 20 days. So a lot of that's inflammation weight, water weight. But who knows how much of it is copper body fat weight? As I just went over, obesity is connected to having excess copper, right? I wish I could show you all before and after pictures. I feel so much better. Brain fog is gone. Weird rashes and dizzy feelings are gone. My body doesn't ache anymore. The ParaGard works differently for everyone. No, it doesn't. It's just some people become toxic faster than others. But if you're having unexplainable problems, it's probably your IUD. The doctor tried to tell me it was my thyroid. Girl, LOL, you know your body, trust yourself. Okay. Last one. The side effect symptoms started 3 months after insertion of ParaGard. Again, individual variability in how long it takes the toxicity to show up. Roughly when I started to wean from breastfeeding and my cycle returned. Insertion of ParaGard, she took it out when she started to wean from breastfeeding 3 months after the birth. Ladies, please try to nurse at least a year. Please. It's good for your baby. It'll make them better looking too. They actually started showing that the formation of the jaw and the skull, breastfeeding helps with that, and bottle feeding does not. Kind of like chewing soft foods doesn't help with your skull shape. Chewing hard foods does. I got insane IBS symptoms out of nowhere, nausea, insomnia, and panic attacks. The symptoms lasted about 4 weeks before I made the correlation, decided to get the IUD removed. 3 weeks after getting it removed, I felt back to normal. I went back to my doctor to discuss other birth control alternatives, and she convinced me that the ParaGard did not cause my symptoms and convinced me to get it back in. I started to think that maybe my side effect symptoms had been weaning from breastfeeding anyway. I agreed to have it replaced. 3-ish weeks later, all of those same symptoms came back, in addition to a 10-day period, a metallic taste in my mouth, and acne. I got the IUD out yesterday. I'm waiting for the side effects to go away. Never again will I put anything made of copper inside of me. Do you think, copper copers, that every one of these women has Wilson's disease? Do you now think that drinking out of copper cups is good? Cooking in copper pans is good? Copper water pipes are good? Copper amalgams are good? Oh, let's get into the other sources, the copper clothing now. Now they got copper clothing and copper knee braces and copper everything. Okay, so let's go back here. Kind of jumped ahead. So the pesticides. These are the main foods that affects the most. Grapes and the wine that's made from them, berries. Gosh, who's out there? There's a lot of people out there who are like, Dr. Smith, what about berries? And I'm like, I used to say, well, make sure to get them organic if you're going to do them. They're not terrible. But now they're spraying them with copper sulfate. Leafy greens, hey, another high vitamin A food, and potatoes, a nightshade. We talk about potatoes a lot. If you're going to eat potatoes, don't do it too often. Make sure they're white potatoes and make sure you peel the heck out of them. And don't have them all the time. But anyway, I'm not going to go into these studies too much, but here, the main pesticide linked to Parkinson's disease in California, here's the paper, was copper sulfate. When compared to 10 different pesticides, copper sulfate was the highest. Agricultural use of copper, and it's linked to Alzheimer's disease. They're spraying it on your organic foods. Am I saying not to eat organic? I don't know what to do anymore, folks. They're going to get you. I don't, other than growing your own food, that's what you got. Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, again, the copper copers will be like, they actually, I need to go over this paper. Maybe I'll do another Alzheimer's episode. But they actually find that the amyloid plaques in Alzheimer's store copper. So you're literally making plaque in your brain to hold on to copper. So it's not terrorizing your brain. So you can lock it down. That's what those amyloid plaques are. And yes, there's research on this. So again, we have copper clothing and textiles, as in copper oxide socks, pillowcases, and they are intended to release copper ions into your body. Now again, folks, toxins slow down detox. So if your symptoms, let's say the symptoms that you're having are from copper detox, in the beginning, taking more copper could reduce your symptoms because it slows down the detox, and then you feel better and you think, oh, this is great. And what happens over time? You slowly absorb more and more copper and then the slowing down of your detox fades away, and then you're just left even more toxic, and you've got more copper floating around your system, and all the benefits are gone, and you just feel terrible again. Copper as an algaecide to kill algae. Let me tell you guys a client story. I had a client who had outrageously high copper on a hair test. And I was talking to him about where the sources might be, or if it was contamination of his hair test, because I wanted to make sure. And then eventually we finally figured out, he told me, well, doc, I've been, before bed, to try to help me sleep, I've been getting in my hot tub for like 10 or 20 minutes to like relax and that stuff. And he said, I checked some of the stuff that I was adding to the hot tub, and copper sulfate was one of the things. What happens to me after I get in the hot tub is I get really anxious and I can't sleep. And I feel really hot. Like, I mean, of course, it's a hot tub, but still, you get out of the hot tub and you start to feel normal pretty quick. But if you feel hot after that, that's a big liver symptom, okay? And I said, it's the copper in your hot tub. And he started not using the hot tub, and his symptoms started slowly decreasing. So, if you don't know what is in your pool or the pool you swim in, if it's a public pool, they're going to use the cheapest stuff out there, probably copper sulfate. And there are literally revolutionary people, like basically, I was going to say something rude, but they're basically choking down good old blue oxidized copper sulfate in multi milligram doses a day, and they think they're going to fix everything. And some of them at the start, they suppress their detox well enough that they're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And they're buying bags of copper sulfate, like literal bags of powder of copper sulfate. It's going to end very badly. It's just the way it is. Now, I wanted to hit on this, the systemic and lifestyle factors that increase retention of copper. Increased estrogen scenarios, as in puberty, menstruation, and pregnancy. When do girls and women tend to feel the worst in general? If they're toxic in copper, puberty, menstruation each month, and pregnancy. Okay. There's menopause. What happens during this? This is when women lose their ability to detox each month. So that copper that used to leave them every month, think about this, copper IUD. Women actually have a literal copper wire put in them. And all of a sudden they start having extra long cycles. What do you think their intelligent body is trying to do with all that copper? Do you think it's trying to get rid of it? Oh, what if I were to tell you that copper is an anticoagulant, so it makes you not stop bleeding? Okay. Women's heart disease rates tend to catch up to men after menopause. What did women lose when they went through menopause? They lost their monthly detox cycle. What do we see with copper IUDs and copper toxicity? We see often extra long cycles. So here's the thing I want you guys to understand. Been figuring stuff out about this. Vitamin A toxicity tends to cause cholestasis, so your liver's not getting rid of the toxic bile as fast as it should, and it starts, if you can't get rid of stuff, it tends to start accumulating, okay? It's the vitamin A toxicity that sets up the copper toxicity. Okay? What does birth control raise in people? Oh, it raises vitamin A and copper. What a weird coincidence. So I've always seen that vitamin A toxicity and copper toxicity come together. They do, because one affects the other. Okay. Then we have, we have some people with iron overload and some people with iron deficiency. We've especially been running into women with iron deficiency. Joe, you should link that copper deficiency video so people can see that link too. But how could this happen? How could somebody have vitamin A toxicity and copper toxicity, and then mostly men have iron overload, And many more women have iron deficiency in terms of ferritin. Okay. What happens is that the excess loss of blood for the women is causing the iron deficiency. That's it. They're just simply bleeding too much every month. So both of those people, copper toxicity definitely leads to iron overload. And so does vitamin A toxicity. Vitamin A increases your retention of iron. And then if the woman gets the hormonal issue of bleeding too much, trying to detox that copper, then she can induce an iron deficiency that then has to be fixed a little differently. Okay? That's how you can have both going on. Okay? Hormonal birth control, they raise and increase the retention of copper. I went over a video earlier about how it's been known since 1975 that birth control raises vitamin A and copper in the system. Do women generally tend to say they feel better on birth control or worse? They feel worse. So birth control makes women feel worse. It raises vitamin A and copper. And in both men and women and animals, it's been shown that vitamin A in the blood, serum retinol, and serum copper go up as people get older. Do people generally feel better as they get older? No. That's two big patterns that are very hard to ignore, even for the copper copers. Okay. And hormonal replacement therapy. Folks, hormones that you're taking from outside are increasing your copper. Yeah, I just talked about this, the iron deficiency caused by excessive menstrual bleeding due to copper toxicity. It does help cause iron overload, impaired bile flow, aka cholestasis. That's what we fix. Alcohol consumption causes liver damage, causes cholestasis. Low molybdenum will cause an excess. If you're not getting rid of the copper, you need molybdenum and zinc to get rid of the copper. If you don't have enough molybdenum, you tend to start accumulating copper. If you don't have enough zinc, you tend to start accumulating copper. And if you don't eat enough protein, you tend to start accumulating copper. Okay. So now that we established that people don't have to have Wilson's disease to get copper toxicity. Okay. If you still believe that, you can go find somebody else to follow. You can go follow artists or somebody and go vape and chew nicotine gum and take copper and just go ahead. Go. Come back here when it doesn't work. Okay. So let's get into some other MDs out there who are talking about copper toxicity. So Judy here is an MD. Copper toxicity, a common cause of psychiatric symptoms. We just went over that with the ParaGard. But this is where we're going to go over it. So she has anecdotes and testimonials, and she sees it in practice, and I have anecdotes and testimonials. We've been over lots of them. Sorry, let me zoom in, Joe. Thank you for that. Here's a short list of psychiatric symptoms and traits associated with copper overload. So think of the kids today. I'm saying that we can generationally pass down toxicity. I was talking to Kelsey about Kelsey has copper toxicity. We're still working on it, but we've gotten her so much further. Like even her hypermobility has gone away. But I started thinking about some of the symptoms in her family that she's told me about, and I realized, oh wait, those symptoms are copper toxicity from the generations above you. And so she was set up to get it. That's what I'm telling you. So like you moms who, let's say, took birth control and you know it affected you badly, and now you're extra toxic, and then you have a daughter and you're going to put her on birth control, she's going to be even more likely to have problems from it, and they're going to be worse. Okay. Now, I can't vouch for every single one of these symptoms, but this is another MD's list of symptoms associated with copper toxicity. Hyperactivity, academic underachievement, learning disabilities, ADHD, autism, skin sensitivity to tags and shirts or rough fabrics, intolerance to estrogen and birth control pills. They're already toxic. Onset during puberty, pregnancy or menopause. Those are high estrogen situations. White spots on the fingernails. People tend to urban legend associate that with zinc deficiency, which goes along with copper toxicity. Skin intolerance to cheap metals. Emotional meltdowns and frequent anger. Anger is a liver symptom. Ringing in the ears, as in tinnitus, sensitivity to food dyes and shellfish. High anxiety, depression, poor immune function, sleep problems, poor concentration and focus, low dopamine activity, and elevated activity of norepinephrine and adrenaline. Low dopamine activity. Gosh, are people addicted to like dopamine fixes these days? Like, oh, I don't know. Especially, let's say, women and Instagram and other social media. I mean, men are addicted to social media. Men have their own addiction with the corn and all that stuff. But folks, like everybody's addicted trying to get some dopamine from somewhere. Copper toxicity ruins your dopamine system entirely, and that's why you're always trying to stimulate it. Okay. Remember the birth control, the IUD lists of things that women were saying. Other medical conditions associated with copper overload include acne, allergies, candida overgrowth, hypothyroidism, anemia, hair loss, chronic fatigue and fibro, migraines, and male infertility. We went over that last week. The reason that copper is linked with such a long and varied list of conditions is that it is absolutely essential to the proper functioning of the immune system, the endocrine system, and the nervous system. So this is the gaslight line, right? She's still got it. She's like, I'm still an MD. I still got to say that it's absolutely essential. I gotta put this in here so my board doesn't come after me. So it is a cofactor in the chemical reaction that converts dopamine to norepinephrine. When copper levels are high, this is the important part, more norepinephrine and epinephrine, adrenaline, are synthesized from dopamine. So then you've got too much adrenaline going on, basically, which can cause feelings of agitation, anxiety, and panic, overstimulation, racing thoughts, restlessness, and insomnia. In other words, it has an amphetamine-like effect, revving the nervous system into a state of overdrive. Any of you folks felt you get a bunch of energy from dark chocolate? It's not the little bit of caffeine in the dark chocolate. It's the copper acting as a stimulant. Toxins are often stimulants. People don't take cocaine because it calms them down. It's because it's a stimulant. Many toxins are stimulants. And here she's making some connections here. Consider that copper is often used in electrical wires because it conducts electricity well, and likewise increases nerve transmission, which is an electrical chemical process. So if they wanted to turn you into a battery and use EMF against us and use you to charge your own, wearable things, and resonance is a thing. If you don't know what resonance is, then you should probably go look it up because I'm not going to explain it. But resonance would be like, okay, so like if you have two piano keys and they're the same tune, then when you hit one, the other one will start vibrating at the same frequency, right? So you can have something vibrating, and then if something else matches it, is resonant with it, it starts vibrating too. Okay? So what would resonate with copper? Oh, I don't know. Copper? So if you're full of copper and you have a bunch of copper wires in your house, and they put a copper coil on you like that article I went over, then you start resonating with it. Gosh, do you ever feel like what resonating? I just talked about it like vibrating, right? One of the biggest symptoms of copper toxicity is a feeling of internal vibration. Weird coincidences in these things, right? So let me see what else is on here. That was it. So let's keep going. So now we're going to get into some of the Wilson's disease things. Because now that we know that normal people can be poisoned with copper very easily, then let's see what Wilson's disease causes when people are extra slow at detoxing copper. Copper levels build up in the brain, liver, eyes, or another organ. This is called accumulating. Somebody might call it storing. Why does it do this? To get it out of the blood, where it could kill you if it didn't do that. The early symptoms of Wilson's disease can be subtle and vary depending upon which parts of the body the disease affects. Early symptoms may include, compare the list, tiredness, loss of appetite, which the biggest thing that will cause loss of appetite or anorexia in the research, zinc deficiency. which goes along with copper toxicity. Mood or personality changes, tremors, twitches, vibrations, or trouble with coordination. Okay, so what do we have? Eye symptoms. You deposit copper in your eyes. There are Kaiser-Fleischer rings that show evidence of this. I went over this in a previous episode where MSG helped one of our female followers to get rid of she took pictures of her eye and she had the Kaiser-Fleischer ring, but she didn't have Wilson's disease. That's weird. A Wilson's disease symptom that's on a person who doesn't have Wilson's disease, and the MSG helped get rid of it. MSG helps to move copper deposits out of you. Okay, so then we have sunflower cataracts. So copper is related to types of cataracts. Here's what I'm telling you. Copper and calcium in the body go up and down generally together. Do we like high copper? No. Do we like high calcium? No. What is making the white color in cataracts? What do you think sticks in places and is white? Calcium. So I'm telling you, copper and calcium go up together. Cataracts are full of calcium, and I believe there's research showing they're full of copper too. And then we have these sunflower cataracts, which are known to be a result of copper buildup. And then we have the good old yellowing of the eyes, which is jaundice, which is liver problems, which 80% of the kids in the hospitals are being born with today. Neurological symptoms, tremor, this kind of thing. It could be intentional tremor. It could be, other types of tremors. As you saw, Parkinson's, which has the tremor, is linked to copper sulfate usage more than any other pesticide. Other muscle and movement changes, trouble with speech, swallowing, or physical coordination, as well as uncontrolled movements and stiff muscles, psychiatric and mood or personality changes. I think we hit on this enough. The biggest ones are depression and anxiety. Oh, this is on the Mayo Clinic's website. I just want to verify here that the Mayo Clinic, Wilson's disease does not cause psychopathy, but it can cause serious behavior changes, including symptoms similar to those in schizophrenia. Symptoms similar to those in schizophrenia sounds like they're trying to not say it causes schizophrenia while saying it causes schizophrenia, because isn't a group of symptoms called a syndrome, and they give the syndromes names like schizophrenia. So are they going to say that, if you have schizophrenia, but it's caused by copper toxicity, then it's not really schizophrenia? Or is schizophrenia a group of symptoms that is caused by toxicity, particularly copper toxicity and vitamin A toxicity? Weird that those go together again. Face of the giant panda sign, it's literally eating away at their brain. Liver symptoms. Gosh, did you hear about this on the copper IUD? The swelling or fluid buildup in the legs or stomach area. We heard about that several times on the copper IUD, but it's not Wilson's disease. Yellowing of the skin or eye is known as jaundice. Yes, that is when your liver is cholestatic and leaking toxic bile everywhere. Skin and nail symptoms. Copper buildup in other areas of the body may cause blue fingernails or toenails. Depending on the skin color, this may be harder or easier to see. Sometimes this is called Wilson's disease nails. Folks, do you know that when you have a copper pipe and it's kind of that brass color, right? But then it rusts. I call it copper rust. It oxidizes and it turns into that turquoise bluish color. They're literally depositing so much copper in their fingernails or toenails that they're turning blue. If you've ever had this, feel free to comment below. Darkened skin on the front of the lower legs. Some of these may be really bad copper toxicity symptoms. But we heard about all of these in the copper IUD things. Some of these things were happening within 2 weeks, 2 months, 4 months. Other symptoms, other possible signs and symptoms include bone and joint conditions such as arthritis, especially in the knee. We heard about that. Kidney conditions such as kidney stones. What did I just say that goes up with copper? Copper and calcium. What are most kidney stones mostly made of? Calcium bound to other things. Loss of fertility. Well, you should go watch my men's episode about the men's side of that. Pregnancy loss, also called miscarriage. Loss of sexual function. We help people get fertile all the time. Weird that we work against vitamin A and we work against copper toxicity. The coincidences just keep happening. Oh yeah, we'll just hit on these couple quick ones. Kidney problems. Wilson's disease can damage the kidneys. This can cause issues such as kidney stones or changes in how the kidneys filter waste, leading to extra amino acids in the urine. So leaky kidneys, okay? There's lots of talk about helping kidney problems in the low vitamin A world. We have added the copper fix to this. Mental health conditions, as we heard about in the IUDs, personality changes, that was literally mentioned, depression, irritability, bipolar disorder, or psychosis. This is the Mayo Clinic. Oh, it leads to anemia and heart conditions. You guys remember, if you watch the part 1, you'll see where I went over all this stuff, how it connects and where the organs in the body, the organs and glands that collect the most copper, also just coincidentally happen to be in the top 10 causes of those organs associated with that are in the top 10 causes of death in the US. That's another weird coincidence. Okay. So now I thought this I want to go into this one, the second opinion physician, Dr. Dave. Don't mind Dr. Dave's last name of Epstein, but I was looking at this article and I went, man, did his name have to be that right now? That's just not, that's very, what am I trying to say? Not awkward. It's very untimely, if you will. But anyway, he's a doctor of osteopathy. High copper symptoms, a second opinion on anxiety, dumping episodes, and how to test for high copper. Wow. So you mean we're not just the only people talking about dumping symptoms out there? And it's actually in the research? So this is not research. This is his opinion. But let's go over these so you folks can see again the symptoms that we talk about. Common high copper symptoms: anxiety that feels amplified or out of proportion, irritability, emotional sensitivity, or sudden overwhelm, difficulty winding down, insomnia, or restless sleep. This is the, okay, so I want you to put all this together. This is the tired but wired. You feel like you can't relax, but yet you're too tired to do anything. And you go, why can't I sleep? I'm so tired, but my brain won't shut down. This is a toxic metal that is accumulated in your brain, not letting you calm down. So you're running on adrenaline, but your body's tired. Racing thoughts, internal pressure or cognitive overload, head pressure, as in headaches. Headaches are super common for both copper toxicity and vitamin A toxicity. Nausea, dizziness, or heat intolerance. I want you to remember that one. So remember how I told you that lung problems could show up from copper toxicity? That people were not, they had absorbed some other way and then they caused lung problems. Well, what about the nausea on the IUDs? Copper toxicity is well known to cause nausea when it's in water. But what about the IUD? How is that getting to their stomach? Oh, it's getting there through the blood. Okay. Head pressure, nausea, dizziness, or heat intolerance. That's a vitamin A toxicity symptom too. Tension in the jaw, shoulders, and chest. Nobody has that, right? PMS worsening, postpartum shifts, or mid-cycle emotional crashes. These high copper symptoms often fluctuate rather than remain constant. Many patients describe periods where everything feels louder, more intense, or harder to regulate, followed by temporary relief before symptoms build again. Copper toxicity is much more common in women, so we tend to see the cyclical stuff because women's hormones shift over the month, and ladies, your estrogen affects your copper. And so does your detox cycle. Isn't it true that most women feel better? They feel like a great relief once their period starts. Gosh, what do you think they're dumping out of their system that then can't circulate anymore? Copper dumping symptoms. Copper dumping symptoms occur when stored copper begins moving into circulation faster than the body can bind and excrete it. This is true. This typically happens during zinc therapy. How many times have I talked about zinc stirring up copper? Postpartum recovery, discontinuation of a copper IUD or estrogen-containing birth control, rapid weight loss, detoxification phases, or periods of high physiological stress. Let's go over. So let's just assume somebody has too much copper in them. Okay? Now, Some of these can happen to guys too. Some of these are just women, right? Postpartum recovery is just women. It's not men who can also get pregnant. I had to throw that in there. Okay, so men who are pregnant. Okay, so if you take zinc and copper can occupy, and molybdenum too, they can occupy the same spaces in the body. So if you take zinc, it can kick the copper out of its stored spot, its accumulated spot, and then it's out in the system and it's free and it's not bound to necessarily copper protective proteins like GHK or ceruloplasmin or all the other ones that the body makes. Okay, so you kick it out. It'd be like, I don't know, letting prisoners out of jail too fast, and all of a sudden you have a bunch of prisoners running around causing problems, because that's generally what they're going to do. Copper is generally going to cause problems. So if you let too much of it out of the jail too quick, which was the liver, or, oh, I don't know, body fat. Didn't we just talk about how obese people have more copper in all their tissues, including their body fat? Rapid weight loss would cause a rapid dumping of fat and the copper it contained into the system. So anyway, so your body cannot bind it and excrete it fast enough, so you get free copper symptoms. Zinc therapy can cause this. This is why, folks, we make a liquid zinc that is only 2 milligrams per drop, so that you could very carefully dose it. So if you're really sensitive to zinc and you're trying zinc capsules, you might want to go to our store and look at the liquid zinc, because then you can dose it much smaller. You do have to shake it every time, and you do have to shake it well, but that's one way of getting very small doses of it. And we made that specifically because of this phenomenon. Okay, postpartum recovery. There's a bunch of hormones there. Pay attention to this. Discontinuation of a copper IUD or estrogen-containing birth control. One of the IUD ladies talked about the dumping. What did I talk about with mercury fillings? People get them out. They feel better. And then 3 days to a week later, they start feeling mercury toxicity symptoms because they're dumping it. Does the same thing happen with, oh, I don't know, copper IUDs that were put in? Or let's say copper amalgams that were put in and then taken out, and then they start dumping. You stop intoxing, and then your body itself will start detoxing. Or you take out the estrogen that was causing you to retain all of the copper, which your body was shoving into the tissues. You take out the estrogen, and the body says, let's get rid of this, and it pushes it out in the system. We talked about rapid weight loss. Detoxification phases. This is why I'm constantly talking about slowing. Put your foot on the brake. If you're having problems, if you're dumping too much copper, you're dumping too much vitamin A, you're dumping too much bile, hit the brake. Like, stop pushing the gas, folks. Periods of high physiological stress. Those here who are familiar with toxic bile paradigm know that stress causes what? Stress causes bile dumping. How does the body get rid of bile? Or how does the body get rid of copper? Via bile. If you're not well yet, you're still leaking toxic bile into your system. So if you dump more bile that has copper in it, you leak more bile that has copper in it into your bloodstream, and you feel toxicity symptoms until your liver can clear out your blood again. Copper dumping symptoms. Abrupt spikes. So quick, you guys know this. Abrupt spikes of irritability, agitation, or emotional intensity. Nausea, metallic taste, or sudden head pressure. Flushing, heat waves, or sweating. This is definitely toxic bile. Temporary insomnia or vivid, restless dreams. Fatigue following an episode due to neurotransmitter depletion. I don't know what that cause, but short-term worsening of high copper symptoms. So this is why I tell people, like, look, if you come to us for help, if you're here for help and you have symptoms and you're new to this and you haven't gotten bit on the butt by pushing detox too hard yet, everybody comes in and they go, I'm going to do everything. I'm going to do everything full force that Dr. Smith says, and I'm going to get better so fast. And I'm like, in every article, I'm like, slow down, wait, calm down, do this one thing at a time. I can't tell you how many people come to office hours and they're like, I'm literally doing everything on the list. And I'm like, you've only been doing this for like a month. And they're like, yeah, I'm doing everything on the list. Why do I not feel very good? And I'm like, you kind of missed the whole thing. The whole thing of me saying, doc, it hurts when I do this. Well, then don't do it. But if you add everything at once, you don't know what is screwing you up or what you're pushing too hard on. That's why we do it systematically. You are your own science experiment. No one else out there has a research paper that is you. You are the research paper. So if something is making you not feel good, you need to figure it out and you need to adjust it. And we do this adding things slowly so that you can figure it out. I mean, we are here to help, myself and Kelsey and Nathan, and we have our office hours to help people. And usually our answers are, what did you add recently? Because that's probably what you didn't pay attention to that's messing you up. And you need to back off on that. That's the most common thing we do. So for those of you who are not going to work with us, that's the biggest thing you can do is if a week after you've added something and you're like, I don't feel very good. What's happening? What's going on? I'm telling you, the answer is almost always, it's probably the thing you added. Take that out or back off on it. See how things go. Usually the issues will be gone within 1 to 3 days if that's the issue. Okay. Copper dumping symptoms do not indicate treatment failure. They are evidence that copper is shifting from tissues towards elimination. The key is pacing. Hit the brake. Zinc stabilization. Find the right dose of zinc for you, not too much. You need what you need, but you don't want too much. We call it the Goldilocks effect. And supporting ceruloplasmin so dumping remains manageable. I'm going to remind you guys, because there's a root cause approach out there that thinks that vitamin A is necessary for ceruloplasmin. They base it on some crappy cell studies. Let me tell you that what we call the infamous chicken study showed that when vitamin A was restricted from chickens' diets, their ceruloplasmin went up. So they've taken studies and they've completely interpreted them their way, and they have people getting vitamin A toxic and copper toxic all the time. If you're one of those, I hope you have realized it and you're coming over to the other side. I know they have good marketing and it all sounds good. But I mean, that's how they got people to put mercury in their freaking mouths. So why can't they convince you to do other things that aren't good for you? Like pokies. How many people got convinced about pokies? So anyway, ceruloplasmin goes up with copper. So people taking more copper would increase their ceruloplasmin because your liver is trying to make ceruloplasmin to protect you. Vitamin A is not good for the liver. Vitamin A reduces ceruloplasmin in actual living creatures, which then makes you have more free copper, which then wreaks havoc in your system. Okay. High copper anxiety. Copper-driven anxiety is distinct from generalized anxiety disorder. Excess copper exaggerates. Some of this is BS. Exaggerates norepinephrine output, destabilizes dopamine. Those are true. Increases excitatory glutamate activity. You know how many people we have that feel a ton better on MSG, monosodium glutamate, from their copper symptoms? And again, people feel better from zinc too from their copper symptoms. And some people take zinc and it stirs up copper too much and they get copper symptoms from that. So what do they need to do? Back off. If you have issues with MSG, take less, or maybe you're not ready yet. It's very simple. These things that we use to detox copper, as we're going to go over in a paper, can stir up copper. So what do? You don't keep taking it just because I put it in the program. You back off and you figure out the dose that works for you, or maybe you don't take it yet. And reduces inhibitory GABA-tone. The result is high copper anxiety, a pattern marked by agitation, sensory overload, and emotional intensity rather than quiet worry or rumination. Copper anxiety is, as he's saying, different. Patients often report, pay attention here, that this form of anxiety feels physical, electrical, batteries, wires, antennas, or internally pressured. Many also respond poorly to benzodiazepines or SSRIs because these medications do not correct the underlying neurotransmitter balance. I wouldn't be surprised if I could find research that shows that benzos, anti-anxiety drugs, or SSRIs actually cause you to retain more copper. which is why people's doses go up over time, and they can't seem to get off of them very easily. Because if they stop the thing suppressing their detox, then everything starts coming out. Let's see, what else do we have on here? Patients with high copper often present with racing thoughts, irritability, internal agitation, the internal vibrating or the internal agitation. It's a very specific feeling. You guys out there who have had it, you know what it is. And most of the time, people have never gotten a good explanation of where it comes from. This is where it comes from. Intolerance to stimulants or stressful environments. Like caffeine tends to dump copper into the system, and it tends to reduce potassium levels, which is exactly the copper anxiety and depression picture. These symptoms correlate strongly with high copper anxiety, not primary psychiatric disease. So he's saying it's not, this is a toxicity state. It's not like your brain is broken, which I don't necessarily believe in anyway. Why free copper rises? Free copper is the worst of them all. Doesn't mean bound copper is not bad. It means that free copper is the worst. I'll answer that super chat. I'm going to stop talking about zinc and niacin in the future because it's too much for people to understand. Why free copper rises? Low ceruloplasmin. What causes low ceruloplasmin? Well, vitamin A toxicity does. Estrogen exposure lowers ceruloplasmin. Stress hormones lower ceruloplasmin. But wait, copper toxicity raises stress hormones. Oh, inflammation, like you heard all about the IUD women, and nutritional deficiencies like zinc, selenium, molybdenum, flush niacin. They reduce ceruloplasmin synthesis. Okay, excess estrogen causes you to retain more copper. And so do your ladies, your major hormonal events in your life, pregnancy, puberty, menstruation every month, menopause, all that stuff, postpartum, nursing, liver load. Who talks about that? Mold exposure. Wait, what's one of the first things I tell you you need to get rid of in your house before you even spend any money with us? Spend your money on getting rid of the mold in your house and at your work. Chronic infections are a sign of chronic toxicity because infections don't live where the environment doesn't support them. So that woman with the IUD had bacterial vaginosis, but isn't copper antibacterial? So how did she have bacterial vaginosis if she literally had a piece of copper right there? Maybe they don't understand. And people think that what happens in a copper vessel is the same as what happens in your body. No, it's not. Fatty liver lowers ceruloplasmin. What color is, so normal liver is magenta-ish, like very, very dark reddish maroon. What color is a fatty liver? Go look it up on the internet. It's yellow. What other toxin do we talk about that's yellow? That stores in fat? Vitamin A. So fatty liver, full of fat that's yellow with vitamin A in it, lowers ceruloplasmin, just like in the chicken study. Protein deficiency. Ceruloplasmin is a protein. So if you don't eat enough protein, you can't make ceruloplasmin to protect you from copper. Clinical significance. I'm guessing he has research on these things. Elevated free, so I'm going to do all this next week, 2 weeks. Elevated free copper is associated with PMS and PMDD, postpartum anxiety, sudden emotional volatility, hypersensitivity to stress, insomnia and nighttime agitation, worsening of OCD-like rigidity or intrusive thoughts. These are key elements of high copper anxiety and cyclical copper sensitivity. Oh, he goes over we already went over these, but I'm going to hit them again. Dietary and environmental copper exposure. Major environmental contributors. Well water with high copper content. Acidic water through copper pipes leaching metals. So this gentleman also has seen copper pipes, regardless of what your water guy says, copper pipes put copper in the water. Don't believe the water guys who are like, no, you develop a film on the inside and then there's no more copper, because, hey, did that happen with all the lead pipes that are like decades and decades old? No, people are still getting poisoned with lead. Okay, so let's not say that copper pipes are somehow different than lead pipes when all of them have deposits on the inside, and yet lead pipes are still putting lead in the water and copper pipes are still putting copper in the water. Copper cookware with acidic foods, high copper foods, shellfish, organ meats, chocolate, nuts and seeds combined with low zinc diets. Well, we definitely don't do a low zinc diet as a general rule. And I've definitely come down hard on nuts and seeds in recent times. So if those of you are eating lots of nuts and seeds, it's probably not going to work out well if you're copper toxic. Chocolate is the thing that, like, we've been getting comments on the YouTube shorts and other stuff like this that people are talking about how addicted they are to chocolate. Folks, you don't get addicted to something that is good for you. Like, nobody says they're addicted to meat. They feel better when they eat the right amount of meat, but they're not addicted to it. Okay. Are people addicted to chocolate? Like, literally, yes. I had one woman say she doesn't have any energy unless she eats her chocolate. And I'm like, and you're super copper toxic. How are we going to fix that if you keep eating chocolate? And then they go, can I eat carob? And carob's like full of copper too. Maybe the bitterness of chocolate and of carob that you have to sweeten with sugar or sweeteners is a sign of toxicity. Fertilizers, copper sulfate, fungicides, copper sulfate, older plumbing, copper pipes, contributing to chronic intake. Hormonal states that exaggerate copper effects. Copper rises significantly in the presence of estrogen. It causes you to retain more in your gut from the food you eat. That is one part of it. High-risk hormonal states, starting or stopping estrogen-containing birth control. Copper IUD use, pregnancy, especially third trimester, postpartum period, sharp drop in ceruloplasmin. Perimenopause or high estrogen cycles. The clinical significance, these shifts commonly precipitate postpartum anxiety, cyclical irritability or emotional crashes, worsening sensory sensitivity. So your kids who are like hypersensitive or hyposensitive to stimuli, they're probably copper toxic. And if you're a parent who had it and now you have a child who has it even worse, this is what I'm telling you. You hand it down generationally. Panic episodes not present before these hormonal changes. We'll hit on this one, why copper dumping occurs during treatment. Zinc repletes metallothionein, which helps protect you from all sorts of things like toxic metals, which begins mobilizing stored copper from tissues into the bloodstream. This rapid shift causes temporary instability. Clinical significance. Copper dumping symptoms show that copper regulation system is reawakening, not failing. This is an important, I'm going to make a point here because people might say, oh, I'm taking zinc and I feel bad from copper dumping, but this is a good thing. My copper regulation system is reawakening, not failing. So I'm just going to keep taking the high dose of zinc that making me feel bad. No. I mean, you can do that. You could remember, if you get symptoms, if you push detox too hard and you get symptoms, you can keep pushing hard. Do we know how much copper you have stored in your body or in your liver? We have no idea. So if somebody says, well, how long is this sucky part going to last? We have no idea. No idea. Could be years. So while you're fixing the problem with an amount of, let's say, zinc that doesn't aggravate your symptoms, how about you make it sustainable and livable rather than trying to suffer for some reduced duration of toxicity that we don't know how much you're going to reduce it. We don't know how long you're going to have the increased suffering because you're pushing too hard. We try to make it livable so you can go and do your life while you're healing. Okay. That's what we're trying to do. Okay. I think that was it. Yes. Okay. We're going to hit on the mental, emotional stuff that they know about that happens in Wilson's disease real quick. So they're saying Wilson's disease is a genetic disorder of sucky copper metabolism, basically. Primarily presents with liver and neuropsychiatric symptoms. If you remember, on the tissue levels of copper, as I went over in the first part, what two tissues in the body had the highest amount of copper in them relative to everything else? Liver and the brain. This is in normal people. This is not Wilson's disease symptom. Normal people and normal animals accumulate the highest levels of copper in the body, concentration-wise, in the liver and the brain. It's not just Wilson's disease. In most cases, it can be successfully treated with anti-copper agents. Anti-copper agents and both liver function and neuropsychiatric symptoms typically improve. Hey, do you guys remember when I was going over the other copper toxicity thing where I talked about how they use copper chelators and the malignant cancer spread slows down? So they take copper out and cancer spreading slows down. And they're saying here with Wilson's disease, they use anti-copper agents and the liver function improves and the neuropsychiatric, the brain functions improve. What a weird coincidence. Treatment guidelines for Wilson's disease include recommendations for anti-copper treatment as well as for the treatment of liver failure symptoms. Only recently, recommendations for the treatment of neurological symptoms of Wilson's disease have also been proposed. Although most Wilson's disease patients present with psychiatric symptoms at some stage of the disease, it's going to affect your brain at some stage. Currently, there are no guidelines for the treatment of the psychiatric manifestations because they really didn't care. Treatment of the psychiatric symptoms of Wilson's disease is often guided by general psychiatric experience, which just means giving drugs, which typically glosses over the specificity of Wilson's disease. It's a toxicity state of the brain and can result in severe neurological and or liver complications. Let's go find the next part. The clinical symptoms are a result of organ dysfunction due to the direct or indirect effects of copper accumulation. Your liver accumulates copper. Your brain accumulates copper. The other word we use for this is storing. Wilson's disease is typically described as a hepatoliver and brain disease, which also means the neurological symptoms. So like, nerves, neuropathy. So they're saying its underlying mechanism includes failure of copper transport in hepatocytes, liver cells, with subsequent impairment or reduction of incorporation into the ceruloplasmin and excretion into the bile and blood. So they're not making enough protective proteins. They're not excreting it enough into the bile. And so they are becoming copper toxic in the liver cells. Do you remember the paper I went over in I think it was in the men's episode, where they showed that what happened was when there's cholestasis, the liver cells start excessively accumulating copper, and then that causes them to die from cuproptosis, which is copper-mediated cell death. So the mechanism, they're not moving copper well enough. They're not making copper binding proteins well enough, and they are not getting rid of it in the bile well enough. Could any of this happen to anybody? Yeah. Especially with zinc deficiency. Psychiatric symptoms occur in almost 100% of Wilson's disease patients over the course of the disease. Think about the IUD ladies. The first psychiatric manifestation of Wilson's disease could occur in childhood and appear as a decline in school performance. Well, think of how many of these are happening today out there, folks. A decline in school performance, inappropriate behavior, or impulsiveness. Clinical symptoms are often non-specific because you're poisoning the whole body, causing difficulties in diagnosis, including misdiagnoses, isolated OCD, or anorexia nervosa, for example. Remember what I told you about anorexia nervosa? Zinc deficiency, which means it's probably associated with, that's in the research, anorexia nervosa, look up anorexia and zinc deficiency. Totally connected. What does zinc deficiency also go with? Copper toxicity. It is common to observe classic psychiatric syndromes in later early adulthood, including behavior and personality changes. We heard about those. Anxiety, depression, manic and hypomanic syndrome, cognitive deficits, sleep problems, and sexual dysfunctions, including excessive sexual drive. Well, they didn't talk about killing the libido entirely. Don't want to say that. Some patients also have substance abuse problems, the dopamine thing. It ruins your dopamine. And the presence of a harmful use or dependence syndrome could further complicate the clinical presentation and lead to a delay in the diagnosis of Wilson's disease. Most patients develop at least one of the above psychiatric symptoms over the course of the disease. Now, remember the IUD ladies, multiple symptoms in weeks to months. And they tell you, oh, it's just Wilson's disease that has problems. Do you realize yet how much they lie to us? Unfortunately, practically speaking, we do not have data elucidating the difference between psychiatric manifestations in the prodromal phase before they're diagnosed. Okay, so they don't know the difference in the symptoms in the brain before they're diagnosed or before the whole thing kind of really gets rolling after initiation of decoppering treatment and in successfully treated or chronic Wilson's disease patients. Some clinical observations suggest, now I want you to pay attention here carefully. This is the dumping in the research. Some clinical observations suggest that acute psychiatric symptoms can manifest following initiation of anti-copper agents. Zinc would be one of these, or in the first few months of treatment. Paradoxically, even as the neurological status of the patient is improving. It's really important for you folks to hear. So if you're seeing, this is why we go by, so they just said at the end, the neurological status of the patient is improving. So the symptoms are improving, but they can also be aggravating other ones. What do I tell people about your vitamin A level and your copper level? If, let's say, you get your labs back, if you're working with one of us, specifically with your hair test and your blood test, and you get your labs back and you go, but my labs look worse. And people are obsessing over that. Let's say your copper went up because we're getting it out of your liver. But you're worried about the labs. And we go, well, how are your symptoms? And you're like, well, this is better. 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 But my labs look worse. Hopefully you get it at that point. They just said it in the research. We can be getting the copper out of you and you're improving and getting copper out of you. Okay, so for copper in your tissues to get out of you, let's say you have a bunch of stored copper in your fat or your brain. How does it get to your liver to get into the bile to get out of you? It moves into the blood. What tests do we do? Blood tests. What's your hair made of? Stuff from the blood. So if we see all of a sudden your copper, we know you're on a copper detox program, and your hair copper goes up or your blood copper goes up temporarily, what do you think is happening? The copper is coming out of tissues into the blood because it has to go to the liver to get into the bile to get out of you. Okay? If you obsess over the labs without looking at your symptoms first, you could give up because you go, well, wait, my labs look worse. But then we go, oh, wait, you're going to totally disregard the 5 symptoms that are improving, that are why you came to us? That seems silly. So this is why you got to look at both things. You got to look, we look at the tests and we look at the symptoms. I was just talking to somebody recently and they were saying, I don't know if I'm improving at all. And then all of a sudden she says, well, I have a lot more energy to do things. And this was an older woman. And I said, I mean, older than not my young ladies. I'll say that. And I was kind of like, well, I think that's a really good thing. You know, well, your energy is coming back. Like, and then this person was very copper toxic, very. Like their hair copper was like 5.4, which is way up at the top. And this is after a long time of treatment. So they had a spike in it because they were finally dumping it. And then they were noticing improvements in their energy. So let's talk about, I don't know, criminals, behavioral, and we're not having any antisocial behavior these days, right? Behavioral and personality disorders are frequent psychiatric symptoms of Wilson's disease. They are reported to occur in 46 to 71% of Wilson's disease patients, and the most common manifestations are irritability, aggression, and antisocial behavior. So now we can include, not only are there the sad and anxious people, but we have the people out there probably potentially causing, road rage and harm to other people and themselves. Men and women tend to go different directions. Gosh, so anxiety and depression I'm going to say that that would tend to fit more with women. And then we see these irritability, aggression, and antisocial behavior would tend to go more towards men. So when people want copper toxicity symptoms to be all one picture, that's not how it works. And so if you miss out on it because you want it to all be the same in everybody, that's not how this works. That's not how any of this health stuff works. Let me see. Oh, we'll do this one. So one of the things they can do for Wilson's disease is they can give you a new liver, a less copper toxic liver. Okay. This procedure may correct the genetic defect, which leads to the normalization of copper metabolism. So when they got the copper out of people, there are published case reports describing the recovery of neurological symptoms as well as psychosis following liver transplant. However, 2 analyses of Wilson's disease patients who received liver transplant showed that the presence of neuropsychiatric symptoms in Wilson's disease patients is associated with a poor outcome following liver transplant. I want you to think about this. I just went over the liver and the brain store the most copper of any tissues in the body, the highest concentrations of copper. So they give you a new liver. Who knows how toxic that liver was? Okay, they give you a new liver. And the brain, let's say, maybe starts detoxing. Where does it send all of its copper? Goes right back down to the liver. So you're loading your liver with the copper that was stored other places. I mean, a Wilson's disease patient has tons of copper everywhere. Could they overwhelm their own liver and a new liver? Absolutely. Why not? They were literally about to die from it. If they gave them a liver transplant, they were literally about to die. So they had enough copper in them to pretty much kill them. And yeah, they could ruin a whole nother liver. Okay, now we're just going to hit on some other things here. Copper in drinking water. Copper in drinking water. Copper in drinking water. How did it get there? How did it get there? My water guy said it can't get there. It's there. Okay, acute toxicity. So this is like short term. This is what everybody wants to see. They want copper to come in and like, if it doesn't kill you, then they think, oh, well, it's obviously not the copper. They have real trouble admitting or understanding chronic toxicity and accumulation of toxicity causing problems over time. I don't know why people, I mean, it's just like, if you wanted to make a lot of money, you usually start with a little bit of money and you got to do the right things to make more money, and you make more money over time. If you wanted more followers on social media, you start with a certain amount and you start doing things, and then over time it grows. If you're getting toxic in something, you start with a little bit and you don't have symptoms, and then you start adding more and more. And as you cross thresholds, you get more symptoms. I don't know why this is so difficult for people to understand. So, most human data on high-dose acute poisoning are based on cases of suicidal intent with the ingestion of copper compounds or accidental consumption of copper-contaminated foods and beverages. I'm sorry, high-dose acute poisoning, accidental consumption of copper-contaminated foods and beverages. Wow, must be dangerous. Following acute ingestion of copper salts, as in copper sulfate, in amounts that exceed approximately 1 gram, 1,000 milligrams, systemic effects are generally observed. What is it doing? It's literally making holes in your gut and bleeding, killing your red blood cells, acute hemolysis and hemoglobinuria. So you're peeing blood. Hepatic necrosis, it's literally destroying your liver with jaundice and toxic bile leaking into your system. Ruining your kidneys with azotemia and oliguria. Ruining your heart, cardiotoxicity with hypotension, low blood pressure. Tachycardia, fast heart rate, and tachypnea, that's fast breathing. And central nervous system manifestations, including dizziness, headache, convulsions, tremors, twitches, lethargy, stupor, and coma. Does your body want copper coming in through the mouth? Oral intake of ionic copper, which would be what's in your copper water pipes, what's in your copper cups, what's in your copper water vessel, usually induces immediate emesis. That's vomiting. Boy, your body must love it. That's a good sign. So these are acute things. This is high dose, okay? I'm just showing you that high dose, your body doesn't want it either. Acute copper toxicosis manifested by hemolysis, that's red blood cells dying, headache, febrile reactions, feeling hot, feverish. Does that happen to anybody? Prostration, that's getting very, very tired, just like laying around. And GI symptoms was observed in one child after a solution containing copper sulfate, revolutionary people, was applied to burned skin during a debridement procedure. So she absorbed it through her skin. I'm telling you that women, especially doing these super hot showers in copper water pipe water, heat pulls more copper off the water. And then if you combine it with acidic water, and then you absorb it through your skin and you're literally breathing in copper in the steam, they often get anxiety or feel bad or feel very tired after their showers because they're literally absorbing it through their skin and their lungs. So in 2 hemodialysis patients, copper intoxication was characterized by marked hemolysis, acidosis, methemoglobinemia. You hear about that a lot out in the alternative health world. They're like, methylene blue helps methemoglobinemia, but it also causes it. Hypoglycemia, low blood sugar, vomiting, epigastric pain right here, where you think of as like upper stomach pain, diarrhea, and headache with fatal outcome. Administration of copper sulfate as an emetic they're using copper sulfate to make people vomit, was identified as another iatrogenic, as in doctor caused cause of acute copper toxicosis. So they know copper sulfate is so good at making you vomit that doctors were giving it. Why does this keep doing that? Wiley describes one episode of acute GI symptoms, gastrointestinal symptoms, associated with presumed exposure to copper as a result of mixing alcoholic drinks in a copper-contaminated cocktail shaker. It was probably a copper cocktail shaker. Probably wasn't copper-contaminated. In reconstructing the exposure, the author concluded the lowest adverse effect level was approximately 5.3 milligrams in 3/4 fluid ounces, or 10.65 milligrams of copper. I've heard of people, revolutionaries, taking 30 milligrams a day. That's not going to end well. Hopper and Adams presented 5 instances where faulty check valves, in vending machines were responsible for carbon dioxide backflow and subsequent buildup of copper in vending machine water lines. The first drink in the morning can have a metallic taste. So if your water has a metallic taste, folks, stop drinking it. I remember as a kid, the water fountains at the park, right? Taste like metal. If you have to drink out of it, you need to run it first. And can cause salivation, nausea, vomiting, epigastric burning, or diarrhea. Copper poisoning from ingestion of tea that was contaminated with copper sulfate scale deposited in the water used to make the tea. This is all just copper water. This is all just people getting copper from things they were drinking. Recurrent GI illness, including nausea and vomiting, occurred in a Vermont family. Exposure was traced to a buildup of copper in the water overnight. Run the water first. Oh, pay attention here. Family members had increased copper concentrations in hair, but not blood. Relief of symptoms occurred when their drinking water was replaced by bottled water. Hey, is there a reason why we test hair and blood? Why are we the only group testing for copper in hair and blood? Was there a clue here? Family members had increased copper concentrations in hair, but not blood. So what you're saying, Dr. Smith, is that copper toxicity could show up in the hair and not the blood, or copper toxicity could show up in the blood and not the hair. That's exactly what I'm saying. That's exactly what we see. So the research backs it up. Copper poison. These people were literally poisoned with copper, and their blood levels were normal. Because what are they doing? They're storing it in all their other tissues to keep the blood normal so they don't die. And then their body is pushing out the copper into their hair as one of the methods it's trying to do to detox them so they can survive. How do we know it was the copper in the water? Because they stopped drinking the water and their symptoms went away. Does that mean they're all copper detoxed? Not by a long shot. Okay. 5 individuals who ingested water above the EPA's, whatever MCLG stands for, their minimum concentration, something like that, of 1.3 milligrams per liter, and reported abdominal symptoms. The authors suggested that increased copper in tap water can be a relatively common cause of GI symptoms. This was 1994. Again, I'm going to say it again. Don't believe the water guys who say that the copper from your water pipes doesn't make it into your water. I don't know how many different places I have to show that. The copper supplementing people. Chronic toxicity. A major target of chronic copper toxicity is the liver. Liver toxicity is usually seen in specific populations, such as individuals with Wilson's disease and children with various cirrhosis syndromes. Wait, so those kids don't have Wilson's disease, but they have cirrhosis and too much copper. Boy, those might go together. However, there has been a case report of chronic ingestion, long-term ingestion of a high-dose copper supplement. 30 milligrams per day for 2 years. Copper revolutionaries better listen closely, followed by 60 milligrams per day for 1 year, resulting in liver disease. In that case, the pathological picture is similar. In that case, the pathological picture is similar to that seen in Wilson's disease or the various childhood cirrhosis syndromes associated with excess copper exposure. Experimental animal studies have also demonstrated that ingestion of high amounts of copper in feed can lead to liver and kidney disease. Wait, so do those animals have Wilson's disease? No? Did the guy who was taking too many copper supplements have Wilson's disease? No. Did the children with cirrhosis from too much copper have Wilson's disease? No. So let's just stop. Let's just drop the whole Wilson's. The good thing that Wilson's disease shows us is it shows us what really happens from copper toxicity. And copper toxicity can happen in all sorts of people. It happens from too much more copper coming in than you get rid of. It's quite simple. And how do you know how much you get rid of? You don't get to know. You don't get to know. So it's better to err on the side of fixing the copper problem than it is to go, well, I think I detox it fast enough. Okay, I think I'm going to leave. Oh, wait, no, there's other ones in here. So hemolytic anemia, this is where your body, you're destroying red blood cells, okay? Hemolytic anemia due to high concentrations of circulating copper can also occur. So high amounts of copper in your bloodstream can destroy red blood cells. Okay. Anemia has been seen occasionally in Wilson's disease patients and with copper poisoning in sheep. So now we have animals too. In both situations, the anemia is due to a concomitant, at the same time, acute hepatic necrosis, destroying the liver. That breakdown of the liver cells releases a very large amount of copper into the circulation. Could that be like copper dumping? Damaging red blood cells and causing the acute hemolytic anemia. Cessation of menstruation, an increased incidence of gallstones and renal stones, a form of osteoarthritis, and some kidney function abnormalities can also occur in acute untreated Wilson's patients. After exposure to exogenous, that's copper from outside the body in large amounts, acute renal failure can occur and result in permanent renal damage. I just want to know how copper copers explain all this. That's really what I want to know. The hits just keep coming. Reproductive and developmental toxicity. Small amounts of copper from intrauterine devices can prevent embryogenesis. That's the creation of the embryo by blocking implantation and blastocyst development. In women with untreated Wilson's disease, pregnancy is rare and often ends in spontaneous abortion. So the people who are associated with the infertility psyop, I mentioned one of them earlier, are pushing copper. and nicotine. And I went over both of these things in my infertility PSYOP videos. And we help fix fertility without having people take literal pesticides. Oh, and then there are no reports in the case literature of teratogenic birth defects associated with excess copper in humans. Actually, I went over those in one of the previous episodes. I completely went over them. Yes, there is evidence. Okay. We're going to hit on one more thing here. Psychiatric manifestations in Wilson's disease, a cross-sectional analysis, just to show you just how bad copper is for the brain. Birth defects. Teratogenic means birth defects. I went over that before. Yes. The psychiatric manifestations of Wilson's disease, so copper toxicity, maybe I should just say copper toxicity instead of Wilson's disease, can be categorized into 5 groups of symptoms: personality changes, affective disorders, psychosis, cognitive impairment, and others. Akill and Brewer believe that the behavioral and personality changes and affective disorders, including depression, are the most common psychiatric manifestations of Wilson's disease. Denning and Barrios noted that schizophrenia-like psychosis, often described in case reports, is infrequent, and personality change, depression, and cognitive impairment are common. Well, okay. So if schizophrenia-like psychosis was common, we'd have a real big problem, and somebody might actually be doing something about it, because that's going to affect society. That would affect people going to work and all that stuff more than they would like. Remember, they need us working. They want us working, and they want us consuming their media so we can be looshed. If you don't know what looshing is, go look it up. That's what they want. They can't have you too sick. And if they wanted tons of people gone, they probably already would have done it. So they like to have you alive so that you can suffer. That's part of their goal, is the most suffering possible. So ruining health without necessarily putting you in the ground too early is the way they can get the most suffering possible. And think of how much suffering copper toxicity is causing in people emotionally. Okay. So that's what I have for today. Joe, you can take that down. I wanted to hit on the super chat because this is important. Okay. Joe, you can bring that up. And it's an important question. And so it's one of the things that we did was we were a little too specific in our desires to help people with zinc and niacin. Okay. So somebody said, The Flash, thank you for the super chat. The Flash tried sending a super chat, but get an error saying try again. I'd love to understand why. If niacin reduces the effectiveness of zinc, that's not true. Why would I take Keystone Minerals with niacin versus without? Thanks. You're welcome. I'm glad you're interested in taking it. Sorry if I sounded a little, I guess, dismissive earlier. Okay. Zinc picolinate. The picolinate competes for the nicotinic acid receptors. It competes for the receptors. Picolinate competes with the flesh niacin for receptors. Okay. So we would say Kelsey, being an optimizer, suggested that people don't take zinc picolinate with their flesh niacin. Okay. What we learned as we did this was people really have a hard time understanding that people have a hard time understanding that when we say zinc picolinate, there's 2 words there. There's zinc and there's picolinate. And people just think zinc and they go, well, why is Dr. Smith saying don't take flesh niacin with zinc? And I'm saying zinc picolinate. And I try to make it very clear in the program that it's specifically picolinate. And I tell people, hey, look, if you have to take them together, it might make it a little less effective, but take it. It's better to take it than to not take it. Okay. So Keystone Minerals, this is very important because we go into Keystone Minerals with niacin, which is what I take on a daily basis. Keystone Minerals plus niacin is literally zinc nicotinate. The zinc is bound to the flesh niacin. They are bound together. There's no picolinate. I removed, what's the line in Office Space, right? We removed the problem. I removed the problem. Not only is zinc niacinate pre-buffered, we removed the picolinate that was potentially a minor issue in optimizing the usefulness of zinc. Like, this is stuff that we do that's different than everybody else out there. Like, we understand this, and the whole zinc picolinate thing, like, and we have to have another zinc because really, a lot of people are too big a baby to do the flush. They don't want to do the flush, and I don't like the flush. I don't want to, like, my son's one of them. I don't want to do the flush, Dad. I don't like it. I'm like, okay, fine. You can keep some of those little health issues that you've got nagging on you, and you don't have to do it. Fine. As my joke goes, if you like your disease, you can keep your disease. You can. I'm not going to stop anybody from keeping their stuff. You want to keep it? Go ahead. So that's basically it. It's not that zinc interferes with niacin. It's that the picolinate, the picolinic acid, competes for flush niacin for binding because it's part of the tryptophan pathway. Tryptophan is where, niacin can be made from tryptophan. Picolinic acid is made from tryptophan. They compete. So that's all. It's zinc picolinate. That's it. So we've been learning as we go through this that this is what I try not to do, and I got a little sidetracked, but we try not to give people enough rope to hang themselves with, because people will take a little rope, and if they can tie a noose out of it, then they go and do it. This is where people, like with the zinc thing, we say zinc picolinate, take it away from your flush niacin, and then people, like just happened, they take it and they go, zinc is bad for niacin? Oh my gosh, what's going on? Why would I ever take these together? Just like you did. And then we talk about the buffered niacin. And then people start doing all sorts of crazy things with the flush niacin. And they say, I'm taking charcoal with the niacin to buffer it, or I'm taking magnesium glycinate with the niacin to buffer it. And we're like, no, that's not what we said. That doesn't work. That doesn't buffer. Like, if it's not fizzing, it's not buffering, folks. Like, if you are mixing two things together and they're not fizzing, you didn't buffer it. It's just like Alka-Seltzer. Alka-Seltzer is buffered aspirin, baking soda, and acetyl salicylic acid. And they go together in the water and there's fizzing. And then you have sodium acetyl salicylate. It's now buffered. If you ever buffer niacin in water, flush niacin, and you mix it with something, it must bubble for it to be buffered. But anyway, after all that big explanation, what are we doing to solve the problem now? Well, the flush niacin, the 25 milligrams, the little pills, that's such a small dose of niacin. We're not buffering that. But I am working on printing the labels. So do not email Julie about when this will come out, but I am working on printing the labels for Niasoda, which is Kelsey's formulation of buffered niacin. So our niacin pills will now, when they come out, they're not out yet, don't email Julie, will be pre-buffered so people don't have to mess this up. Because Murphy's Law says that any way people can mess something up, they will. And I don't want people messing themselves up if I can help them avoid it. So people might be mad that I'm saying you're messing stuff up, and I'm saying people are going to mess stuff up anyway. User error is rampant everywhere. If you guys have ever seen reviews of products, user error is rampant everywhere. So I'm going to remove the user error from the equation. That's basically it. So yeah, I have those labels done now, so I'm going to be sending them in. Again, don't email Julie asking her when it's going to be out. No, you can't pre-order. We don't do pre-orders. You order it when it comes out, and I'll tell everybody when it's out. So anyway, thank you for the super chat, the Flash. It's a good question, and it's a big misconception, and it's an optimizing thing. So remember, okay, so like let me give you an example of the optimization thing. Let's say if you took zinc picolinate and your flush niacin far enough apart that you got them to, they had 100% activity, whatever that means. So they were as effective as they can be by being separated. Okay. And let's say you take them together, which is not optimal, but instead you get like 75% effectiveness of each one of them. All right, it would really just be the flush niacin that would be affected. So the zinc still works. The flush niacin works a little less well. Is 75% better than 0? Yes. So that's what we're after on that, is optimal, and there's suboptimal of everything, right? So we're just fixing that suboptimal thing. So yeah, hope that answers it. Let me pull up this. Okay. So the Flash said, "Thank you. That question has been on my mind for quite a while. Really appreciate the explanation." Yeah, I need to figure out how to get this out there more. But yeah, we're working on some really cool things. Like, we're talking to a company that makes pitalates, mineral pitalates, which is related. It's a relative of glutamate. So we're talking to a European country that makes pitalates, and we're going to be one of the few. We may be the only company offering it in the States at all. So some of those mineral pitalates. We've already got people taking lots of magnesium pitalate, and people really like it, but we don't make that yet. But it's an idea. So yeah. Lisa B asked, "Do you have a link to a name to a good shower filter and bathwater filter?" I do not have a bathwater filter. You could get one. I mean, the best I can suggest is one of those charcoal ones that hangs under the bathtub. Charcoal would do much more than nothing. The shower filter is the Aqua Youth 2.0. I believe it's one word, Aqua Youth. AQUAYOUTH 2.0. It's the only one I've seen that shows testing that it removes 30% of the copper in the water. That's the only one I've seen show testing. So, let me go and look. Wait, we're at 12:30. Let me just see if there's anything. But I wanted to say thanks to Christopher Oliver for pointing out Artis's recent nonsense controlled op zinc and magnesium. So first it was, wasn't it you take these other things, these quercetin and hydroxychloroquine and all these things, because there's zinc ionophores, which helps the zinc get into the cells, which then helps squash the coof. But now they're saying zinc is bad and magnesium's bad, and it activates the coof. What is their goal? What is their goal? Their bad goal for you? Confusion. That's their goal for you, is confusion, so you don't know what to do. You can come here and I like to think I help you not be confused, because I point it all out, like all the copper wires and turning you into a battery. That's literally in livescience.com. And then talking about the copper wires in your house and how they're poisoning us with copper from all directions, whether it's conventional medicine with IVs, supplements, whether it's copper cups from your favorite influencer who's trying to unknowingly poison you, right? Artists with bioavailable copper, and the root cause folks, and the revolution folks, and there's no shortage of copper pushing going on out there, folks. And they want you to be an antenna. That's what they're trying to do. And copper, I mean, people literally are talking about internal agitation and internal vibrating, electrical feelings inside of them. I'd pay attention to that. Like, these patterns become, once you guys get them, I know this, once you guys get them, they become horribly obvious. You're like, why didn't I think of that before? Well, I'm just here to help put the pieces together so you can see what's going on. Okay. Oh yeah, Quietly Content Bear said, "Hi Doc, hi everybody. I always enjoy the Kelsey cameos." We're probably going to I'm going to be, I will be in Idaho next week visiting the lovely Kelsey, and we will be doing one of our Q&As. So any of you who are interested in super chats or Q&As for myself or Kelsey, my plan is to have her on. She sometimes gets a little shy and sometimes doesn't do it, but she's not as live friendly as I am. So I'm going to try to get her on. Okay. If not, maybe I'll have her on, and if she wants to be quiet in the back and answer the questions, I don't know. I don't know. So we'll work on it. Sorry for starting late today. Let's see. Oh, Eliza said radio-labeled Bungaro toxin as in venom was very commonly used by neuroscientists. It was funny that he acted as though it was some hidden news. There's a video on this channel, folks. Joe, you might be able to find it. If you look for the word venom. When artists came out with the whole it's in the water or whatever his YouTube was that everybody jumped on and everybody was like artificially promoted on the channels and he became a name. I went through the research about the venom in the water. There is literally enough blood pressure medication, which is a okay, so they got the Gila monster venom, right? The derivative of that, which is semaglutide. And a lot of blood pressure medications are derived, enough of them are derived from pit viper venom compounds. And there is literally enough pharmaceuticals in the water that are derived from venom compounds that you could say there's literally venom in the water. I had a whole episode on that. I was kind of like, I was exploring it at the time. Now I know that he's just a farce. But at the time I explored it, and yes, I mean, everything I showed, I still stand by because it was all research backed. But yeah, it's like when they find birth control pills in the water and they're finding SSRIs in the water. There's literally enough blood pressure meds in the water that are derived from venom that it's in the water. Oh, Joe, let me see if I can help find it. Hold on. I don't know if I took it down because he irritated me enough. I didn't want to promote him. There's some other videos I may remove from the channel because I'm irritated enough now. Hold on. I did it. I know I did a video on it. I'll have to go look for it. I'll see if I can't find it, but I can't find it right now, and I don't want to spend too much time on it. So, okay. Wait. Joe was saying something. Here we go. Oh, it might. Joe's checking Rumble. Oh, good idea, Joe. Good idea. I don't know. Anyway, I did something on it. I'll have to look and see where it was posted. I don't know if I got like a little smack for it. I don't know. I'm hoping that this one doesn't get smacked too much for saying the SUI word. It might, but I was actually literally reading studies, so hopefully it will not. But yeah, I think that's about. Let me pull up the chat again and just see if there's anything right before. Well, we'll go till 1. I'll do some more questions. Like I said, if you want Q&A, that'll be this coming Tuesday. Because that's what I do up there, because we don't do the camera because she doesn't have the bandwidth, and then we just do Q&A. So Fernando Espinas, is there a lot of copper in that GHKCU peptide? You're going to have to do a chat GPT on that one. I don't know off the top of my head. But here's a crazy thing. I think I went over this in the other episode. So ceruloplasmin tends to go down as we age. GHK, which is another copper protective peptide, protects you from copper, also goes down as we age. So if your serum copper goes up as you age and your protective proteins go down as you age, that means there's more free copper as you age, which means you feel bad. That's the research. Rand P. Magnuson says, is it okay to drink out of a copper cup? I would never do that. I would never drink out of there's no point to drink out of a copper cup unless you're trying to put free copper, literally metallic copper, in the water. You can taste it. It's there in enough concentration that you can taste it. Now, if somebody says, well, that's not a very high concentration in water, then you think, well, first of all, it doesn't taste good. Copper in the water doesn't taste good. Second, you'd have to wonder if it's only there in small concentrations for you to taste it, why is your body tasting it so well? Is it protecting you against something? Is it telling you don't drink this? And then people, when they're copper toxic, they get a metallic taste in their mouth. It doesn't taste good, right? So those are the signs that we have. Alicia Adams says, what are your thoughts on peptides? They're all the rage in the bodybuilding world. I think there's something for nothing, and I think things are going to be found in those peptides like nanoparticles that people are going to freak out about at some point. I think there's going to be stuff. I mean, they're all made by the same companies. Don't think that your peptide company makes some magical, like, different high quality peptide. They're all coming from the same manufacturers in China and India or wherever they're coming from. And if the bad guys, I just learned about some of the coof pokies, how Western countries, mostly, let's say very light-skinned countries, were the only ones that got the mRNA versions. And the other big countries, China, Russia, and India, actually didn't get any of the mRNA versions, which is really interesting. And then you think about the peptides, and where are the peptides coming from, and who are they getting sent to? Might want to reconsider the peptide fad and all the influencers pushing them. And now they're doing white label peptides where you can just, I heard somebody on one of the, was it on Instagram, saying that she couldn't even say the word peptide anymore. Like it was going to get censored or down. I don't know. I don't keep up on it enough to know that stuff. Call me a boomer, even though I'm not a boomer, whatever. They are the rage in the bodybuilding world, but the bodybuilding world has adopted, as I know from personal experience, the bodybuilding world adopts lots of stupid things that don't work. From what I have fooled around a little bit with them, and I have talked to other people who have fooled around with them, and everybody says they were kind of like, which is like what most bodybuilding supplements are. So, but I tested them because I do these things. Like people are going to ask me about peptides, and I'm going to know. But now I'm starting to get way more like, I think they're probably introducing something into the West with these things that's not good. It's a perfect route. Who could they get? The bodybuilding world, the fitness world. What types of people are those who are willingly buying something research-based or research chemicals, so they're not under any scrutiny, and they are literally injecting them or snorting them up their nose? Like, just think of if there was an evil genius villain out there, and he was like, let me get this one part of the population, this huge part of the population who are really into fitness, and they're really into recovery, and they're really into healing, and they're really into all this stuff. What could I give them that they would willingly pay to inject or snort up into themselves? Sometimes you got to think like an evil genius, right? I mean, that's how you would catch one, right? So I think people should be extremely hesitant of what is in those. And like I said, I didn't think about this before I messed around with them a little bit, and then I just started going, no, it wasn't doing anything for me. Second, I mean, so what do we think? If somebody's not healing right, they got deeper problems. Like if you're not healing right probably because you're toxic and deficient. It's not a deficiency of BPC, right? But can you do a Band-Aid? Can you do something like BPC and get a Band-Aid effect out of it? Sure. Okay, so we got a super chat from Jana. Thanks for the super chat, Jana. Here, let me go. My father, not in the Love Your Liver program, has muscle twitches, anxiety, etc. He is on the no corn wagon at the moment, which eases the symptoms. Why does corn in particular worsen? I can't say. I mean, I don't know that corn is a particularly high copper. Here, let me just. That's considered moderate, but it depends on how much he eats, right? It always depends on, I mean, something could be moderate, but if somebody eats a ton of it, there could be, okay, so what could cause some of the issues? I mean, if he eats, let's just say, a ton of sodium with it, or a ton of butter with it, or he's doing other things, it could be glyphosate. I mean, corn is literally one of the biggest glyphosate crops. I'm guessing, Jana, that I'm hoping that he's getting organic corn. He may not be. But sometimes people just don't get along with certain foods. We've all known somebody who's like, I can't eat that food. And you go, why? And they go, I don't know. It's just could be a certain protein in it that causes them a reaction. So I can't tell you exactly what it is, but the key thing here, right? The key concept is, doc, it hurts when I do this. Well, then don't do that. Doc, it hurt. My dad hurts when he eats corn. Even if it's organic. Well, then don't do that. That's as simple as it can be. We may not have an explanation for it. However, we have a treatment that can relieve the symptoms. So, Joe was thinking it could be spices that he might use on the corn. So yeah. Okay, quietly content bear said our bodily water makes us an antenna. Perhaps their goal is to disrupt that connection. I mean, there's that. I mean, what we see with EMF and even NNEMF, I'm sorry, blue light, like the artificial blue light. What we see with the NNEMF, the non-native EMF, like the Wi-Fi and the cellular and stuff like that, and then the blue light, is as we detox people from these things, the vitamin A and the copper, people's EMF sensitivity goes down, even goes away, and their sensitivity to blue light, artificial blue light, goes away or even disappears. So the concept of, could it be that we're an antenna and they're trying to disrupt that? I mean, that's okay. What I know is that EMF sensitivity that has been screwed with. And blue light, if blue light doesn't cause any damage to your eyes unless you have vitamin A there. And I've been over this research. So blue light cannot damage your eyes unless there is enough vitamin A present. So we start taking these things out and then people feel better. So I like, whether, your theory, if are we an antenna and they're trying to disrupt that, or are they trying to turn us into antennas, or are they trying to turn us into a nefarious antenna? That's a whole different conversation. I didn't like being EMF sensitive. I didn't like being copper toxic. So I fixed them and now I have a much higher quality of life. So that's my take on it. Like, we don't always have to know the mechanism. We don't have to know the end game. We just need to know how not to play it. So, we got is that super chat? Oh, Lisa B did a super chat. But I think she may have had, I know sometimes people have trouble posting them. So Lisa, if you already posted your question, let me know. If you want to post it after that. Oh, Jana was saying, thanks, Dr. Smith. Glyphosate is far-reaching. Good thought. Yes, you're welcome. So let me see. I'm just marking all of the. Wait, the first super chat, Joe. I don't see it anymore. Maybe I can't go back that far. Lisa, did you post a question? Buttercup Yeshua was saying, remember that hemp was member hemp. I was thinking of the member berries. I was watching South Park this weekend with all the member berries and it was okay. I want you guys to think. I think that was 2015, back when the first Trump and Hillary Clinton race was going on. Back in 2015, South Park was talking about how much social media was destroying everything. Like, it was either 2015 or 2016. They always tell us social media is like poison. South Park was telling us 11 years ago. But they had the member berries. That's why I saw that. They said member hemp was in everything a while ago too. Hemp seeds, hemp protein. When you start seeing something showing up everywhere, the hemp seeds, And the hemp, when you see coconut showing up, they're like going to feed you coconut every which way possible. They're going to feed you hemp every which way possible. They're going to feed you soy every which way possible. What are they trying to move towards now? The bugs. They're going to put the bugs in everything. Okay. Lisa's finishing her post. I'll just answer this real quick. KG said, can I take ND liquid zinc while pregnant? Don't want to take a prenatal. Okay, so me making a comment on a pregnant woman in a public forum is fraught with risk for me. Now, zinc is, okay, so zinc is an essential mineral. Essential is a key word here. So does everybody need a certain amount of zinc to live and be healthy? Yes. Okay. Does that disappear during pregnancy? No, it does not disappear during pregnancy. Actually, the need for zinc likely increases because you have to make a whole nother human. And they need zinc too. So if a pregnant woman were talking to me and they had tests, let's say a hair test and blood tests, and they showed deficiency patterns in one or both of those, being that pregnancy, probably requires, I haven't looked at the pregnancy requirements, but I'm guessing zinc requirements go up for a pregnant woman versus a normal woman. Being that that is likely true and that zinc is an essential nutrient, if it were my wife, I would likely have them take some zinc. Now, caveat to pregnancy is often a very easily nauseated situation. Zinc on an empty stomach, because it does get your bile processes going, can cause some nausea if you take it on an empty stomach or not enough food. So during pregnancy, if somebody was going to take any amount of zinc, they would definitely want to make sure that they have eaten a very good meal before they take the zinc. That would be true. But I mean, if you were saying you don't want to take a prenatal, then there would be zinc in a prenatal. So there's part of the answer. But they also put vitamin A and vitamin D and copper and all that crap in a prenatal too. So that doesn't, zinc being in a prenatal doesn't automatically imply it's safe when they put those other toxic things in there. So, KG was saying, thanks, Dr. Smith. You're welcome. I would definitely get your folate during pregnancy, not folic acid, but definitely getting your folate. Beans are the highest source of folate out there in general. And then you get your soluble fiber, but the beans have the soluble fiber, which can make some people poop better. It can make some people poop less. So you just got to watch during pregnancy. But the big things that are, okay, remember most of the stuff about prenatals and all that stuff. Remember how I was talking about Murphy's Law and people doing everything wrong? There's going to be some people who do everything, who figure out something to do wrong, even with like the simplest instructions. It would be like, here's how to drink water, and people will like miss their face, literally. They'll pour it on their head just because there's got to be somebody who does that. Prenatals were, in my opinion, originally created for, let's say, very low income people who are not intelligent enough to necessarily know what to eat. And so they're eating complete trash, often government sponsored trash. And then they give them a prenatal so they can feel like they're not gonna suffer and whatever. And then that turned into, well, if they do it, then the people who eat pretty good should do it too, just to be safe. And now we have everybody thinking that they need a prenatal, when if you're doing the Love Your Liver program and you're eating a healthy diet, there is no indication anywhere that you should need a prenatal. If you want to take it, I'm not saying don't take it. If you are eating a good diet, why would you need a vitamin? Doesn't that make sense? And then why would you take, I'd say probably half or more of the things, in my opinion, in a prenatal are not good for you. I mean, if I had a pregnant wife, I'd probably have her taking, assuming she tolerated, I'd have her taking 1 Keystone Minerals plus niacin a day. So, oh, Jana was saying wise words, addicted to what you're allergic to. Yeah, when my copper flares up, I get addicted to the screen. Yes. We try to, our addictions are often, this was a really critical thing for me to realize for my own addictive tendencies. Addictions are escapism. You're trying to escape thinking about something or feeling something. And if you just sit there and sit with it and think about, what am I trying to escape right now? You can start to figure it out. And then, like, after about maybe a minute and a half or 2 minutes, it'll leave for a while. It may come back, but it'll leave. And when you start realizing, I don't have to escape this, or maybe you choose to escape it, but addictions are generally escaping something. What, it could be escaping pain by doing, something. But addictions are, once I learned that addictions were escapism, and I just had to sit with it and think about, what am I trying to escape? And then I kind of did some self-talk of, I don't have to try to escape this. It's not hurting me. I'm not going to die. So, okay, we're going to be okay. You don't have to go do the escapism thing. Oh, yeah. Buttercup Yeshua said, I went to the Natural Food Expo in California. New trend, everything has protein in it, and also fiber push because of high protein and everything via whey and collagen. So, yeah, they're going to give you tons of protein. Folks, more protein is not the answer to everything, especially not whey and collagen. People would have figured this out a long time ago, and neither is tallow. They're just going to take every part of the cow that they used to throw away, and they're going to repackage it and give it to you as high protein and stuff. So, yeah. Oh, okay. Let me get to Lisa's question. Okay, so now that she's got it all there. She says, I temporarily stopped taking the Nutrition Detective Minerals with niacin because I was getting constipated. Plus, I was taking everything else to help my bowel movements. So I'm taking a smaller dose of the ND niacin, the Nutrition Detective niacin, 75 milligrams, and the ND minerals. Has that happened to anyone else? Okay, well, I'm just going to go over something. It is March 17th, 2026 today. I'm just going to say that something that my good buddy and I have discussed is, like, there has been an increase in constipation for both of us lately. And I'm guessing that that's also been happening for other people. People have not been pooping as well. I'm going to guess that there's a trend out there. So if you're out there and you're watching this, and for like maybe the last 2-3 months, and you're kind of like, yeah, I was pooping pretty darn well before, and then all of a sudden it just kind of slowed down. I'm just saying, if you want to say that happened to you, feel free. But there was this going on. So I'm just saying that this was going on. And then if you were taking, okay, so anything can cause anything in anyone at any time. So if for some reason, Lisa, 200 milligrams of niacin was too much for you, and you needed to, that's what's in the Keystone Minerals plus niacin. If that was too much, then you needed to reduce to 75 and maybe switch to the other zinc. If that's what helped fix the issue, then that's what helped fix the issue. And I would say kudos on doing your own detective work and figuring that out on your own. Is that a common thing? No. Can it happen? Sure. So, Laura Koch was saying, yes, that happened to me I'm assuming you mean the constipation. Oh gosh, actually, Buttercup Yeshua said prenatals made her gag, or them. I'm assuming now it's a she. Buttercup Yeshua said prenatals made me gag. I couldn't take them. Okay, I want y'all to listen to this. When I was in naturopathic medical school, and I was on the environmental medicine shift, which was the detox guy, the main detox guy, Walter Crinian. He's now passed away. He didn't live very long. When you see his mega dosed, oh, Lisa says, thank you so much, Dr. Smith, with a heart. You're very welcome. When you saw what this guy's supplements were, if you guys have ever taken the pure encapsulations, it's like their prenatal or the detox multivitamin that's like 12 pills a day. Literally, the dose of the multivitamin for detox was 12 pills a day. And they were yellow from all the curcumin and turmeric in them. But anyway, what was going on during school was there a bunch of people would take them because they're like on this shift and they're like, oh, well, this teacher's so smart and this is his product and he recommends it. So let's take it. And especially women, but also men too, including myself, would try taking it in the morning and people would literally get terribly nauseous or vomit it up. Like in their clinic shift, they would just barf. And that's where I started going, maybe this isn't good for people. And I just looked at the list. Let me see if I can find it. I'll just see what's in there. Wait until you see the vitamin A that's in this. Let's see if I can find it. I don't know if I'm going to find it. I don't know if they still make it. Let me see. Doesn't look like they're doing it anymore. Yeah, I think their prenatal was like 6 pills. And the women would often barf that up in the morning. Especially, the prenatals, obviously there was some pregnant women in my class and they would take the 6-pill prenatal and just blah. That's when I started going, maybe all these things aren't good for people and maybe they're taking too much of something. So, yeah, not a big fan of the 6 to 12. I'm not a fan of prenatals at all. The idea that every woman needs a specific amount of the same in the pill, and they put enough vitamin A in the pill. The Teratology Society, as I went over before, was 3,000 IUs of vitamin A a day was suggested, or less, for pregnant women. Standard American diet gives them 7,000 to 8,000, and every prenatal that's out there, if it's not retinol at 3,000 units plus beta carotene adding on top of that, it's more than that. I think Crinian's old that 12 pill multivitamin was like either 20,000 or 30,000 units of vitamin A of retinol plus retinol palmitate plus beta carotene. A lot. Yeah. Okay. So we got to wrap it up. I got to get going. So, standard process. Standard process is like, I get tons of people who are vitamin A toxic who are on standard process, mostly put on them by their chiropractors who are doing lots of muscle testing. And somehow everybody gets the same supplements from standard process to take. Sergio asks, what can I give my daughter that's LYL approved? She has a nasty cough and she can't sleep. What supplements do I suggest I give her when she's sick? Well, I'm not supposed to be making medical suggestions on the channel to individuals. Now, if you get into, I will say this. This is like, we're talking about a cough. A cough can be copper toxicity. I'm telling you, like, okay, for those of you ladies in the last several months, if you got sick several times, we've been talking to people who are like, it's women are getting sick like several times and they always have a cough. There's always this cough that comes up each time. That's copper dumping. You are literally dumping copper and your cold is copper dumping. And it's going into your lungs and it's going into your throat and you're coughing. This is the ARDS that I was describing earlier. So if you're trying, Sergio, if you're trying to suppress a cough, that's that key word of suppress. You're trying to do something to suppress the body's reaction. That's just the way it is. Now, if I had a really rough cough, or if I had a rough cough, one of the first things, and I'm going to say this is okay. You start trying to suppress things. Are you going outside of the love your liver type stuff? Yeah. Like if somebody goes, I'm going to take high dose vitamin C to shut this down, you're shutting it down. Like you're going outside of the normal approach because you're deciding to shut it down. So if you try to suppress a cough, I mean, you can take over the counter cough syrup, you can take prescription dextromethorphan or whatever it is. You can do those things. Is it LYL approved? Like you don't get to, like you don't get to do both at once. I don't have magical cures to stop the detox reaction. You understand? If we stop the detox reaction, we're stopping the detox. So is that what we're trying to do? No. Can it be done? Sure. The original Ricola cough drops are something that I use and I have my kids use if they have a cough and it's a pain in the butt. They're little, there's real sugar in them and it's a couple of herbs and it does seem to help. Is it fixing anything? No. Is it giving them sugar? Yeah. Is it giving them a couple of herbs? Yeah. Is that totally in line with what we do here? No. Does it help my cough feel better? Does it help their cough feel better? Yeah. So you get to decide what you get to do. Yeah, I mean, I if I go into this, so if people come on and they're like, Dr. Smith, you're a hypocrite, and I'm saying, did I not just explain what my stance is on this? And people will be like, but he said, people are trying to take jabs at me whichever way they can, right? You're talking about suppressing something. If you don't know about the hydrogen peroxide in the ears treatment, this I learned from Mercola years ago. You try to give her zinc in a sandwich, good luck. Good luck. The hydrogen peroxide in the ears trick. This is something I do. So I'm going to describe it to you folks as something that I do. What you choose to do with information you hear on YouTube is up to you. But yeah, I got this from Mercola like 20 or 30 years ago. And it does, I find when I do it right at the start of when I'm not feeling good, I feel like it reduces the time that I'm unwell from like by 50% or more. It reduces the intensity by at least 50%, and it reduces the time, I believe, like 50% too. So as soon as, first of all, what most people don't do is as soon as you start feeling sick, stop doing so much. Stop doing so much. That's very, very important. That's what nobody does. They're like, oh, I might be getting sick, but I don't think I'm getting sick. I can't get sick. I got to keep doing this stuff. And they keep working themselves until they're sick. They make themselves sicker. Or some of you out there will go and like try to sweat it out. You'll go in sauna and you'll go and sweat it out and you'll go do like the niacin flush and you'll go do like tanning and you'll try to just like overdo it. You'll try to crush it. I've tried that a couple times. I felt sicker. Push detox too hard. Like the body was already starting to detox. And then you're like, oh, let's do more. And then you feel even worse. No, I can say that when somebody's sick, get them out in the sun. Get them, like, don't burn them, but get them out in the sun. Sunlight. And if they can go for a walk in the sun and it's not too much for them, go for a walk in the sun. A walk in the sun. The hydrogen peroxide in the ears. This is very easy. You put hydrogen peroxide into a dropper bottle and you lay on your side and you drip like with the dropper. You can have somebody else do it. I can do it on myself. About 8 to 10 drops in your ear. And you lay there for 10 minutes. So set a timer. Lay there for 10 minutes. Then get a Kleenex and maybe a Q-tip and get the peroxide out of your ear. And then do the other side. You can do that twice a day, I found, for like the first day, maybe 2. After that, it's not going to help anymore. This is why the peroxide in the ears, in my opinion, is like the first day, maybe the second day. And you will hear, if you have stuff in your ear, you will hear it fizzing a lot. If you've had perforated eardrums, if you have any holes in your eardrums, surgical tubes, perforated eardrums, don't do this. Okay. Oh, Joe's reminding me of words I shouldn't say. But hydrogen peroxide, couple drops in non-perforated ears can help. It helps reduce the intensity and the duration. So if she's past the first couple days, I don't know that this would help. You can still do it. It doesn't hurt anything. It can tickle a little bit because the bubbles, like there's so many bubbles that it actually tickles your inner ear hairs and stuff like that. Not your inner ear hairs, but the hairs inside your ear. Yeah, those are things that I do. Then watching funny stuff. It has been shown that humor boosts the immune system. And if we say stress causes a bunch of bile dumping, then therefore happiness and laughing would, in a good way, calm down the bile dumping. So that's one thing I always say. I do the hydrogen peroxide. If this were to happen to me, I do the hydrogen peroxide. I rest. I get sun, and maybe I go for a walk in the sun. I'll do things like, one of the things that you can do also, one of the things I do at the start of a cold, if I get one, which is, can't remember the last time I had one, but I will gargle salt water, or I'll even gargle hydrogen peroxide. And those can help. So you're hitting the ears and you're hitting the throat with the peroxide or the what was I saying? Salt water. And then, I'm watching funny stuff. Don't just scroll on your phone. No, that's not. Put a funny movie on. That's much better than scrolling on your phone. So yeah, those are things that you can do. But like the Ricola cough drops can help with the cough. Like we're not, if you want to suppress it, you could go the whole suppression and you could go vitamin C to bowel tolerance and just shut it all down. That could have her better in a day or two, but then you just stopped the detoxification that would happen through that process. You can do that. If she's not taking zinc and you have to squeeze it into a sandwich or whatever, I don't know if she's going to do the vitamin C either. So, okay. Quietly Contempt Bear says, are you and Kelsey going to do a video on the new low ferritin findings? Probably sometime. Yeah. Yep. Maybe we'll do that this coming week. Since I'll be there and she'll be forced to be with me. So yeah. There was some hints to it today. Sergio says, I can give zinc, right? She's 5 years old. I mean, zinc is an essential nutrient for people of any age. You can always do whatever you want. A general guideline that I go by would be, that I go by, if I were dosing my children with, let's say, zinc, is if a standard known long-term safe dose for general adults was 30 milligrams a day, you would take 150 pounds, 150, and you'd take the child. I would take the child's weight and divide that into the 150. So let's say the child weighs 50 pounds. 50 divided by 150 is 33% or 0.33. And so I would dose my child 0.33%, a third of 30 milligrams, so 10 milligrams. That's how I would dose my kids with something like zinc. Divide their weight by 150, and then they get that percentage of the adult dose. That's what I would do. That's what I would do for my kids. What you do for your kids is up to you, because this is not medical advice, as it's in the disclaimer in the info box. So, yeah. Okay, I got to wrap it up. I got to get to my inner circle. Yeah, we will see you all next time. Let's head through the links. Yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube, this is our YouTube channel, youtube.com /@nutrition detective. You can leave the ad out and just type in nutrition detective. It still works that way too. X.com, or AKA the old Twitter. I am NutriDetect on there because we can't do the whole name on there. I'm not as active there as I used to be. It's become quite depressing. Rumble, if you want to see all of our videos uncensored without any editing out for the Gestapo, Rumble has all of them. If you see there's one video missing, I forget which one it is on this channel because it got a strike or got taken down, you can find it on Rumble. So if you want to see all of it, it's on Rumble. Our main website, nutritiondetective.com. This is where you can find all of our stuff. The shop, the supplements, the consultations, the testing, all that stuff. Joe's probably about to head into that now. Facebook, @real nutrition detective. I don't post there much anymore. I have trouble accessing it through my shorts and reels program. So I can't stand Facebook. The Revive mouthguard. If any of you want to get a Revive mouthguard, people have really been having positive results from this. And some people, if you're struggling with a Revive mouthguard, if you got it, use the free month of the school network that they give you with the mouthguard. But anyway, yeah, you use my code there, detective, and you can use that link and you get 10% off of the mouth guards. And you don't have to get the school year subscription. So there's two prices there. There's with the year and there's without the year. You always get a free month. Okay. Ken is great. I really like Ken. I really like the Revive mouth guards. The Love Your Liver program. This is my life's work. This is where you can find all the stuff that I talk about. I do talk about it here, but you got to go through a lot of episodes here to get all the stuff, and you may still not get it all. So members.nutritiondetective.com. The Madness of Modern Nutrition. This is where you can sign up for our email newsletter. This is where I think it's a 17 email series that you can get signed up for there. Now, the other thing I want you to know about is we did just have a big flash sale, a 3-day or 60-hour flash sale on our zeolite, and people really took advantage of it because it's really good stuff. And we announced that mainly on our email newsletter. So we're hopefully going to be doing more things like this in the future. And so if you want to be on the email list so you get those newsletters, I did announce the live stream today a little late on email, but it went out there. I'm the social media manager now. So you got problems with our social media, you got problems with me doing it. That's just the way it is. So happy St. Patrick's Day. Let me say that. Well, I'll throw that in there while I remember it. Instagram, @real nutrition detective. So on Meta, we're @real nutrition detective. You guys want to sign up there. And like I said, those of you who are already there, you've been seeing me put out more shorts and reels because I figured out how to do that pretty quickly and easily. So then we have, like we talked about today, with the hair testing for copper and zinc and the blood testing for copper and zinc and the hair testing for all the other 32 minerals that it looks at, and the blood testing that we do for vitamin A, ferritin, copper, zinc, as I just mentioned. And then you want to get help from one of our facilitators, Kelsey or Nathan, and then you can get access to all of us for a still there. We're still doing the office hours until, well, we're figuring that out. But if you schedule before May, office hours is still in it. So anyway, that's how you can schedule a consultation with our people. Office hours will still be around after that. It'll just be a different format. Substack. Going to be posting more on Substack. We do publish articles on Substack, and I'm going to be working on more articles there. Some of them are going to be based on these live streams. So if you wanted to give somebody a written version of these live streams, then that's going to be one way you can do it. I'm figuring out how to get stuff posted there too. Kick.com. This is something we are exploring. I may start doing the inner circle. I may start offering the inner circle on Kick. So if you want to help me with that, I have to have 75 subscribers to do a paid live stream. And so if you want to go sign up for that, you can go sign up. Once I have 75 subscribers, we could do it. I may do, just to get people over there, I may do a free inner circle over there just to make it happen, because that's what I do. I make things happen. Again, I'm Dr. Garrett Smith, also known as the Nutrition Detective around these here YouTube parts. Hope you all enjoyed this copper toxicity thing. Do not believe the copper copers. If you want the basics of what we talk about, when I talk about toxic bile paradigm, Joe just put up the link. There's a 3 episode series that I did with Beth Martins on this channel Go check that out. If you're wondering, what is he talking about bile dumping? What is he talking about toxic bile leaking? What's he talking about cholestasis? This is the new paradigm of why we get sick, how, what makes us sick, and how we have these cycles of feeling bad. We talked about copper dumping today. Copper dumping is totally related to toxic bile dumping and leaking. So that's why you might want to go watch those videos. So this was the second part of the copper toxicity series. We finished up the sources from part 1, and then we went over the literal symptoms that are not just Wilson's disease from copper toxicity. And that's basically it. Like I said, next week, Kelsey will be here and we'll be going over Q&A. So love you too, Sergio. Hope your daughter feels better. I will see you all next week. Have a great week. Bye now.